Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of October 26, 2021. We are going to start this meeting with the pre-up for another application. Our regular meeting will start at 7 o'clock with our public hearing. So that will be that. Beth, you want to take over?
What I would like to do is introduce Attorney Tim Hollister, who is representing the applicant. I also would like to introduce members of the Planning and Zoning Commission that are present here this evening. We have Kitty Grant, who is secretary running the meeting this evening. John Lennon, David McCollum is my assistant. Penny Kessler, Ken Parsons, Rob Wallace, and I believe Rob Stoll is here also.
Yes, I found.
And if I've forgotten anyone, please forgive me. I guess we're good. Attorney Hollister, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commission members. I'm Attorney Tim Hollister with the firm of Hinckley Allen in Hartford, representing Continental Global Ventures, represented here by Howard Rappaport and Rich Vicino. The consulting engineers and planners are the BL companies, represented by Dennis Goodyear, John Mancini, Brian Maloney, and Jeff Dewey. Thank you for your time. We're cognizant that we have been given a slot until 7 o'clock, and we're going to try to make our presentation within that. So let me just start with the very basics. This is a 34-acre property that straddles the Bethel Newtown line, bordered by Stony Hill Road and Mount Pleasant Road on the north and Walnut Hill Road on the south. We have been talking to both Bethel and Newtown now for, I'm going to say, 5 or 6 months. We've had several conversations with Ms. Cavagna and Bethel town staff. Mr. Rappaport had a conversation with Mr. Knickerbocker. We had a pre-application, pretty much the same as we're doing tonight with you, with the Newtown Commission and staff 2 weeks ago. And the idea is that if we get what I will call a flashing green light tonight, we will intend to proceed with a regulation amendment application with an illustrative site plan. That's the general plan at this point. I will say 2 other things preliminarily. Themes, this is a challenging site. Our understanding is that other property owners and developers have looked at developing this site in the past. Continental thinks that it has found a way to develop it in a very efficient way, but also one that will be of the highest quality and will be a great part of the housing resources for both towns. So with that, Dennis Goodyear, you want to, and Howard, you want to take it away, please?
Yes, Tim, thank you. And thank you for your time tonight, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Howard Rappaport. I'm a principal with Continental Properties. We are among the largest developers in the state of Connecticut, having developed over 1,200 luxury rental apartments over the past 7 years in 6 different municipalities. Our nearby developments include 10 Trumbull, 202 units in Trumbull completed last year, the Mark 228 units in Shelton, and Muse Milford and 180 units in Milford, which we are completing this fall. Our expertise, our skill set is in building modern rental communities that are highly amenitized. Our communities are Class A, truly best in class, as you will see on these photos. And Brian, if you could begin to kind of flip through the slides. And all the photos you're going to see are of communities that we have built recently in Connecticut. We are a privately held company that has been building for 64 years. One major feature that differentiates us is that we are generational holders, meaning that we don't build and sell. And long-term ownership provides, I believe, your municipality with more stable management, one constant contact, and long-term curb appeal for the community that we will build. I'd like to provide a brief overview of the residential program on this site, and then I will turn it over to BL Companies to provide a more detailed description of the site plan. The residential program is comprised of a large 6,000 square foot clubhouse plus 8 buildings in total on the entire site. Brian, if you could pull up the site plan, that would be helpful, I think, for the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The clubhouse will feature a club room, a cinema room, golf simulator room, state-of-the-art fitness studio, plus co-working spaces for our residents. There will be a resort quality pool, including cabanas and a fire pit. The amenity program, similar to what we have built in Lower Fairfield County, will be first class. It will be highly, highly amenitized community. Again, something that I think distinguishes our communities from other multifamily communities in the area. On the Bethel side of the line, there are 3 multifamily buildings. Each of them have 38 units. They have lavishly appointed lobbies and hallways, and each are serviced by an elevator. The 3 buildings on the Bethel side comprise 114 dwelling units, and the 5 buildings on the Newtown side comprise 132 units. The 114 units are a mix of 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. The breakdown is 48 1 bedrooms and 66 2 bedrooms. And this is consistent with the bedroom mix in other Connecticut communities where we have built. Rents at this time are projected to start at approximately $1,900 for a 1 bedroom and $2,200 for a 2 bedroom. For Fairfield County, these are generally considered to be moderately priced units. In summary, and I think that hopefully this presentation will bear this out, you will see that our objective is to create a best-in-class modern rental community of which the stakeholders of both Bethel and Newtown can be proud. And with that, and I'm happy to answer any questions, I would turn it over to BL Companies to provide you with a more detailed explanation of the land plan that we're showing tonight. So I'm not sure if it's John Mancini or Dennis Godere, but one of you, I'll let you pick up now.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Godere. I am a landscape architect and senior project manager with BL Companies. And I hope everybody could hear me. And Mr. Rappaport, our client, gave a great overview of the quality of this product and vision for this site. And as Attorney Hollister had mentioned, there are challenges to overcome for the development, which has been seen in the past as well. As had been mentioned, and I'm going to ask my colleague Brian Maloney to go back a couple of slides here to the aerial image of existing conditions. That one, correct, thank you. Parcel contains 34 acres, certainly divided between, not equally, but between Bethel and the town of Newtown. And then commercial development along the northern parcel, or northern portions. Preliminary discussions with town staff of Bethel had talked about providing pedestrian access to the athletic fields to the west, as well as access to the commercial developments to the north. It is something that the plan is looking to incorporate, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. Brian, if you can move to the next slide, please. As this image shows, I know it's a little bit pulled back as far as the zoom here goes, but the darker the areas, the more the topography. So there is some slopes that we are going to contend with, and there's also some wetlands which are in those flatter areas and with the dark lines. So we have developed a plan that minimizes the amount of disturbance, incorporates stormwater management, and will, we believe, reduce and ensure that we address any of the environmental impacts that could possibly be associated. If you can move back to the next slide for the proposed development, Brian. As Mr. Rappaport had mentioned, in the town of Bethel, on the town line is the red line that goes up the middle, sort of at a slight angle, 114 units, and then 132 units in the Newtown. The primary access is from Route 6 in Newtown, and there is an emergency access from Walnut Hill on the Bethel side. Yes, correct, right there. The Bethel side of development consists of 4-story units or 4-story buildings, and they are divided in 38 units or 24-unit buildings, primarily throughout the site. And the Newtown component has 3-story buildings as well. You'll see there are the blue areas that are represented. They look like ponds, but not necessarily ponds, but they're just meant to represent stormwater management areas. We have done enough preliminary engineering that we believe this parcel will support this development from a utility infrastructure, from an earthwork standpoint, environmental, and stormwater management as well. On the lower left-hand corner, you'll see there is space in a buffer area provided between the Walnut Hill residential neighborhood to the closest building that's in proximity. This was responding to comments that we've received preliminarily by staff, and we are proposing enhanced buffer plantings and naturalization, as well as passive park recreation that would support the community as an amenity. One of the elements that has been successful for Continental's development is a hammock park. That might be something that is here as well. There's sort of a bubble area, Brian, if you can point that out. That might be a feature which is pretty unique and actually relaxing, if you will. But we are providing enough buffer areas for the wetlands to address the environmental impacts and concerns associated with those components as well. Brian, if you go to the next slide as well. And this gets into a little bit more of the details of the engineering, but we have taken a very close look at the how the site can support the development of this property, and we are confident that the engineering, the earthwork, stormwater, and utility infrastructure can be supported as well. So we can get a little bit more into detail if you want on that component, but we have taken a very close look at this initial stage, probably more so than is typical, but we know that there are some challenges to overcome. And I think with that, I would turn it over to Attorney Hollister.
Great, thank you. Let me just underscore the theme that the site development costs, site preparation costs here are very significant. And that leads to the fact that the proposal at this point is all market rate apartments. That is, we're not proposing formally income or rent restricted units. And that's also because, as Howard mentioned, we believe the rent scale compared to the region is moderate cost. And so there are always choices to be made in each of these developments, but we think this is the right program here at this time. As I mentioned, we think we've been through a good set of dialogues, conversations with both towns over the past several months. So the thought at this point would be to, unless we come up with a showstopper that we haven't seen before, to proceed to a regulation amendment with this illustrative site plan. I will mention that this obviously will require a OSTA, Office of State Traffic Administration approval. It will obviously require a wetlands permit, although we're generally going to stay out of filling any wetlands. There will be some activity in upland review areas, but we're well aware of and committed to the idea of making sure that the work that's in the upland review areas, A, protects the wetlands, and B, provides the water quality treatment and the protection and the buffering that those areas are suited for. So with that, unless Dennis or Howard have any additional comments, we'd be pleased to hear your comments or questions.
Tim, I just want to amplify one thing that you said and Dennis said and I said, and I won't belabor the point about the difficulty of developing the site. But what I do want to point out is that we do have an expertise in developing what we call rock jobs site with a lot of earth movement, blasting. Our communities in Trumbull, Shelton, and Milford, all in each of those we had significant earth movement, including blasting. Not quite as much as this site here, these sites here in Bethel and Newtown, but we do have the ability to execute on the vision that we're showing tonight to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I would also ask Brian to probably pull up the elevation too, since that was only shown at the beginning. And then we'd be happy to take whatever questions or comments or feedback you have.
Excellent, thank you. Beth, do you have anything to add before we start asking commissioners? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Brian.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Really, tonight's purpose of this meeting is for all of you to give us some feedback as to their presentation and the work that we've been working on over the last couple of months.
Thank you. Okay, so Bob Legnoid, can we start with you?
Yeah, Brian, can you go back to the elevation? Thank you.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Okay.
You mentioned something about tying a pedestrian walk over to Old Hollyville Road. Is that
Yeah.
feasible?
I believe it is, Bob. They've been looking at it, and if you look to the rear of the Big Y Plaza, that property there is owned by the town of Bethel for the most part, is open
Oh, sure.
space.
Okay,
So
Yeah.
they are working with staff trying to come up with a feasible way to make that connection.
okay. And where would utilities would all be tied into Route 6?
Yeah, Dennis, do you want to handle that?
Yes, that is correct.
That would be, I'm talking about water, sewer, or whatever would be tied in.
Yes, we have been working with these utility companies. We are confident that there is adequate capacities, and it would be within Route 6 along the frontage.
The utilities proposed, I believe the utilities will be going to the town of Newtown, and
That's what
it is Aquarian water out there.
Okay.
Heather.
That's all I
Kenny-
have now.
Thank you. Thank you. Kenny Parsons?
When will the traffic study be done?
We will do a preliminary study in connection with our regulation amendment. Obviously, we had already looked at it to some degree, but that would come at the next stage with our first formal application.
Okay, and how many total parking spaces do you have?
Dennis, can you take that?
Yep, Brian, if you pull up the site plan and just zoom in on the zoning tables.
Yeah, there is a town-specific zoning table on each plan.
Yeah. So we are meeting the requirement for the town of Bethel, which requires 228 spaces based upon the number of bedrooms, and then we have 229 spaces. So we are meeting that by in excess of one.
Thank you.
Okay, Penny Kessler?
Yeah, hi. I am having, and maybe it's just me, I'm having a hard time with the map that's in front of us. Can you just point out some of the landmarks surrounding, because it's really small, I'm on my laptop, and I'm trying to figure out where things are here. So
I can do it.
So you mentioned like Big Y, you
Big Y is
mentioned,
the white group.
Okay, so why don't I do it in Bethel speak for you?
okay,
Okay, If you look to the left where their hand is, that is the Big Y Shopping Plaza.
Okay,
Okay, if you move to the right, if the little marker, I'm not in control, so I can't do it. If you take the cursor and move to the right of the Big Y Shopping Plaza, that is Hollandia Nursery.
okay, all right. Okay,
Next to
thank you.
Hollandia Nursery is a lot, an empty lot.
Yeah.
And right besides that is where the proposed entrance is.
Understood.
Okay, so if you move over to the corner piece behind the Big Y, you'll see that is Old Hollyville Road. And there are single family homes located there.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
Is
you.
that
I got
helpful?
it. Yes, thank you. Very, very helpful. I'm afraid my north and south don't really work terribly well here. So what I'm understanding, just terminology, is that these will be rental units.
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Linda
Good.
Curtis, oh, I'm
Thank
sorry, are you not done, Penny?
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Linda Curtis, are you here?
I don't have any questions, really. I do kind of like the green space that you're doing by Walnut Hill. That
Right.
looks like that's going to create a nice little buffer between your proposed development and the residential units that are there already. So that's it for me.
Okay, John Lennon?
Okay, so the purpose of this application at 6:30 is to get the opinion of the commission and how we think it looks and how it would fit in the town of Bethel. When attorney, I haven't seen you in a long time since you were on Reservoir Street helping the Davenport family. It's good to see you. But going back to this application, your first statement was there was only 3 buildings in the town of Bethel, but it really, with the red line, almost the Newtown buildings are closer to Bethel than the ones you're proposing in Bethel. I think that the buildings are too big. I think it doesn't fit with the character of Bethel. And when you're driving down Walnut Hill Road, it won't look like it. I totally get that style building, but I think it really is better off up on Route 6, closer to Route 6. I know that you've got the site filled up, but I just don't think the Bethel side really fits with the character of the neighborhood. That's my opinion. And I think that's what we're all here for. So you have a really good understanding of what the commission is feeling or sensing.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Rob Wallace? Rob Wallace?
Sorry, I was on mute there.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, what are the total number of bedrooms again?
Well, this is Howard Rappaport. I'll speak to that for a second. The total number of units on the Bethel side are 114. And that's comprised of, just checking my notes, 48 1-bedrooms and 66 2-bedrooms. On the Newtown side, there's 132 units, and it's roughly the same breakdown of 1s and 2-bedrooms.
Okay. So the wetlands, are those contiguous with other wetlands? On the, what we're seeing is the left side of the property there?
Brian, why don't you go to the next slide? Or the one that shows the outline of the wetlands. I think the next one. No?
Yeah, we don't show the off-site
Okay.
wetland.
There we go.
Yeah,
The blue.
but on the adjoining property, is there a contiguous wetland there as well?
I think the answer is yes.
Can I add to that, Attorney Hollister?
Please.
To the west side, there is a large wetland area. If you go up Old Hollyville Road, you'll see a row of houses there. This is located on the other side. This particular wetland goes down along, ending up into Walnut Hill Road, adjacent to this property, not on the property itself. So there's a brook or some outlet that runs through there and then goes into the large Walnut Hill Swamp. I forget what the name of it is, that's located across the street. Does that help you, Rob?
It does. It does. Yeah, I don't have any other questions of the applicants. I, tend to agree with John that it seems, definitely big for the area. The fact that it's built right up to the wetlands, not crazy about that, but other than that, I'm thank you for the plan.
Rob Stoll?
Interested in if they have an approximation of how much soil, dirt, rocks might have to be removed. And as we're looking at this from above, I mean, will the site be terraced somewhat, or are you just going to level it all out?
I'm happy
Dennis?
to respond to that, Howard. We do work with the topography, and the intent is to balance cuts and fills to the extent that we can. You'll see in the lower left-hand corner where we have the buffer to the Walnut Hill, there is an area that is that passive recreation. So that is an area that will help not only with stormwater management because there's a basin that's shown there, but will help with some of the fills of material that we would be generating. But it wouldn't be completely flattened. We are certainly working with the land to the extent possible, knowing that, and as you likely recall, and we can pull it up again, there's a lot of topography to contend with for any type of development here. But the shape of the buildings, the shape of the roadway configuration, the parking, the various, I think we have about a half a dozen or so stormwater basins are coordinated with topography, with the individual watershed areas, so that we can address and ensure that we are not eliminating any runoff to wetland areas, and we're keeping the same stormwater flows throughout the property as exists today.
Is that it, Rob?
Yeah, I guess it is for now. I'm
Okay.
thinking of some other. I guess one other question I would have is the other properties that you have worked on in Connecticut. Can you name one or two, or might you be able to name at a later date one or two that might have had a starting point, so that we might be able to see, what the end point was?
I'd be happy to respond to that. And I just want to make sure I'm responding correctly to your question. When you say a similar starting point, do you mean a property that was undeveloped with grade and topographical challenges to it? Is that the question that you're asking, Mr. Stowe?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. So I think there are two properties that I would refer you to, and the first would be, and actually the only one would, well, not the only one. The first would be the Mark in Shelton on Bridgeport Avenue, which was a 13-acre property. There was nothing on the property, but there are challenging grades and rock to it. And there we built 228 units in 6 similar 38-unit buildings. I think that would probably be the most analogous to this property in terms of the grades, the rock, the difficulty of the soils, and would welcome the opportunity, consistent with municipal land use law, to provide a tour of that property.
Great, thank you.
Okay,
That's all for me,
okay.
Kitty.
Thank you. I just have just a couple of quick questions. Could you show me where the entrance and exits are for this these units to the streets?
Did you say for the units or for the
No,
development?
I'm sorry, for the whole, for the property.
Yeah, so the main entrance and exit would be right where the hand is there on Route 6. There's an emergency exit on Walnut Hill Road.
Walnut Hill Road or Old Bethel Road?
Old Bethel Road in Newtown.
It's not Walnut Hill. Isn't it Old Bethel Road?
No, it's Old Bethel Road when you're in Newtown, but it's Walnut Hill Road when you're in the Bethel.
Oh,
section.
okay, so it changes in the middle. Okay, I've got it. Okay, and I must say that I have somewhat similar to the same feelings as John and Rob. I do like the green area because there's so much of it, but I think we have so much green area because of the wetlands. I just think it's very overbuilt for the amount of area you are using. But otherwise, I think it looks absolutely lovely. Okay, so what do we do? Should we take a consensus, Beth?
Well, can
Wait,
I,
I have
can-
another
before,
question.
wait. And I know we're going against the clock, so we might have to do something different, but this is a huge development
Right.
that's going to impact a lot of a really country setting in Bethel. So I think it
Okay.
certainly deserves more discussion. But I heard in the beginning of the application, Beth, maybe you could add to this. This is going to require a text amendment before a application could come in. Could somebody please explain exactly what the language would be around a text amendment?
Yeah, thank you, John.
I don't know if Attorney Hollister is still here. I know he had another meeting. Okay,
All right,
so
so
he's,
should we continue this to another meeting? Because I think that we really have to give them a clear view of what the commission is thinking, and I'm not sure the commission is ready to really give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Is that fair?
John, I agree with you.
Yeah, agreed.
I think we all do.
But does somebody on the applicant side want to take a stab at what? Yeah.
Yep, this is Dennis Godair. Just by way of background, I introduced myself as being a landscape architect. I'm also a certified planner, and I also worked as a planner in for the city of Hartford and city of Groton and town of Waterford. So I'm very familiar from both sides of on the applicant side and your concerns. And as we develop text amendments, we are more than willing to work with you to draft appropriate language to provide the flexibility necessary from protecting the character of the community, the rural nature of the neighborhood that you're referring to. So that way you have standards to base any decisions upon as you're reviewing the application, and not just from the character of the neighborhood, but also from the environmental side and the stormwater management, water quality, et cetera. Special
Right,
permits.
Dennis, I could appreciate that, but we're against the clock. My question was, what would be the main frame of a text amendment before this application came into the zoning commission?
I'm
John, I
not sure
would
what you
have-
mean, but
can I add to this,
go ahead,
Dennis?
Beth. Yep.
In reviewing our own zoning regulations, this particular piece of property is similar in nature to what we call the PRD zone. It contains more than 20 acres of property. And I would assume that if there were to be a text amendment, they would probably use that as a basis for creating it.
I didn't hear what you first said, Beth, or I don't understand. So the text amendment, meaning something in our regulations doesn't work to fit this application. What
Correct.
would be the meat of a text amendment that they would propose?
Well, I can't speak for the applicant, John, but what I would say is, I would say that they would look at our regulations, see if we have something that they can take and incorporate their project into that regulation. And the regulation that I find that could possibly work is the PRD zone.
Okay.
Because we are dealing with a parcel of property that contains more than 20 acres, that they would probably use that as a base and then manipulate it to meet whatever needs that they feel they have to put into the regulation in order to make the project work.
Beth, not that we have any control over it, but do they also have to change regulations in Newtown in order to do this?
I don't know. I haven't talked to George lately.
And the other thing is, that concerns me here is this property, I think, is higher than the Hollandia building. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
So, you know, the topography there, you know, we would need to know what the finished topography was going to look like and what it was going to look like John said, in conjunction with the houses around it. This is a big project with big buildings. We need more than just trees for a buffer zone, I think. We need to know, are these buildings going to be higher than the houses in the backyards of these Walnut Hill houses, or are they going to be equal, lower? We need to know that at some point from someone.
I don't know if the applicant has looked at those type of elevations at this point.
We have certainly in our planning have taken that into consideration, but with all respectfully, we would be looking at that in much more detail at time of application, and we would anticipate that within the text amendment, we would certainly want to address that for the commission as well. So we are cognizant of the potential sensitivities to the neighborhood, and we'll be taking that into consideration.
One thing I will say to the commission in my discussions with the applicant, when the application originally, when they came in with their original design proposal, there was much more activity and buildings located along Walnut Hill Road. Over 2 design periods or discussions that we had, it was recommended that they move the building, which they did. It was also recommended that they build closer to the Route 6 area, taking into consideration the single family homes that are surrounding this particular property on Walnut Hill Road and Old Hollyville Road. I just wanted you to have a better understanding of how we got to this point. As far as dealing with density and issues and elevations and things of that nature, they're all good points that you brought up. And I think that what I would suggest to the applicant is that you leave the slides that you are presenting this evening to us, with us, so the commission can look at it a little bit more closely before they give you any final decisions or guidance in going forward with the project.
Okay, Beth, only because we're here for a second. So you said that this, I guess we're going to call it the second plan, is better than what they initially gave you. If this is a 40 scale map, the Newtown building that's right on the Bethel line that I consider just as much Bethel as Newtown, that looks like it's probably, I don't know, maybe 60 feet from the road. How close were they before?
Hey, Beth, it's John Mancini. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Brian, I'm the principal with BL Companies. Mr. Lennon, let me see if I can help you with that. Hey, Brian, can you pull up the site, zoom in on the site plan where Mr. Lennon is speaking? Can you give the closest distance, Brian, there, or is it on the, is it in the chart right now? Maybe we. So from the corner of the building.
It's 80.3 feet.
No, to the street line.
To the street.
Front. So that's go back to the go grab the distance from there to there. So do you think it's 83? You think that's what it is, Bri? Let's just measure it. Let's just see.
Well, now that you zoomed in, it does definitely look like it's going to be. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not a 40 scale drawing, sir. That's one of the things that. Yeah. So it's around 115 feet to the street line. So it's a lot further back than you realize. And if, Brian, if you can do a similar distance to the first building in Bethel. And then I do want to walk, you guys asked a good question about the grading, and I want to walk you through the grading. So the closest point to a building in Bethel is 355 feet. So this is not a 40 scale drawing, it's an 80 scale drawing. So it's a little misleading.
Yep.
Not misleading, but it's like double what you normally are seeing, so we can fit it on one page, you know?
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, John, if you want to walk them through that, that's fine, but we are very, very limited on time. We're gonna have to.
You're absolutely right. So Beth, what would you recommend as far as the commission? Because I've been in these situations where we do these pre-applications and we say we like a pretty picture, but then when they bring the pretty picture again, that all of a sudden everybody doesn't like it. So I want everybody to feel comfortable either not giving a consensus and moving this to another night so we can move on with our very busy agenda tonight. What would you say we should do, Beth?
I feel that this is a very good initial presentation. I think it's important for you as a commission to have a better idea of the scale of the project and distances in relation to the existing neighborhood. My suggestion would be is to let the applicant and staff work on that together and speak again at the next meeting.
There's no need to rush to judgment, good or bad.
John's point is a very good one, and I think that we take it seriously, and that's a good suggestion. We finish this at the next meeting, or go forward at the next meeting.
And you can always, I would appreciate if you speak to me individually and tell me, give me your vision, your reasons, or however you feel, and I'll be more than happy to convey that to the applicant, and we'll go forward and continue this at the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you
If
very
you're in
much.
agreement with that, Kitty.
I think we all can, would the commission like to give a consensus, or we agree with Beth that we should carry this over to our next meeting so we can talk to her and look at it more in more detail so we can discuss it again?
I think
Sounds
that's
reasonable.
a good idea.
Okay, so I think that we made our decision, and we'll see you at our next meeting.
What is the date of that meeting?
Let me get.
It's gonna be the 9th, Howard.
Yeah, November 9th, right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank
See
you for your
then.
time.
Okay, are we ready to move on here? So we're starting our meeting with a public hearing continued of Upstream Properties LLC, text amendment section 5-2, Stony Hill Planned Design Overlay District, 4850 Stony Hill Road. And we don't have any new comments to read in, so Mr. Olson, are you ready? Oh,
Excuse me,
Sure.
Madam Chairman. David, if you could bring up the drive and pertaining to 48 Stony Hill
Yep, I'm on it right now.
that's what I forgot.
and bring
sorry.
up public comments.
That's right.
Okay,
Thank you. Note for the record that there is an email in there from Brian Walters dated October 19th, 2021. Go back to the next one, the other one. The other one is a letter that was requested that it be read at the next meeting. If you want, Madam Chairman, I'll read it quickly for you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lori Krischer, and I reside at 148 Old Polyville Road. As a resident of Stony Hill, I'm adamantly against the rezoning of the property on Route 6 to increase residential units in the area. For the past 5 years, the town seems solely interested in only growing the tax base by adding residential units in an already overcrowded area, an area where roads are in disrepair, schools lack services, and the town lacks any decent activities for families. Stony Hill, and in particular the Route 6 corridor, is in desperate need of businesses, as it is the gateway to Newtown, Brookfield, and Danbury. For the town to not get businesses here shows a lack of basic government and how to run the town to the best of its best ability. We need diversity in restaurants and businesses to keep us spending local. We do not need more townhouses or multifamily units. As it is, my family spends the majority of our money in Newtown and Danbury because Bethel has little to offer. We are currently planning on fixing up our home and listing it in the spring. While I know another family will move in, they too will eventually see how Bethel seems to only care about the money they get from residents and not providing anything worthwhile in return. I ask that this be read at the next meeting, that the zoning changes discussed. Sincerely, Lori Krisher, excuse me. Okay, that's all we have as far as public comments. Kitty.
Thank you. Mr. Olson, are you ready?
I am. May I share my screen? Do I have permission?
Please.
Screen sharing is
Go
enabled,
ahead.
Attorney Olson.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Peter Olson. I'm an attorney with an office here in Bethel at 275 Greenwood Avenue. I'm here on behalf of Upstream Property, the applicant. This is our third public hearing. So we've been at this for 6 weeks or so now. At the last public hearing, we heard a number of comments from commission members about the proposed regulation. And we took those comments and made a couple additional revisions. We had made some revisions prior to the last meeting as well. And I just want to go through our proposed revisions to the text amendment quickly. First, in the section on permitted uses, we have added a clause to the commercial residential mixed use requirement that says at least 1,600 square feet per acre of gross area of the land of commercial uses is required. So that's the minimum that the commission can consider for mixed use between the properties, between the two different uses. And then second, in terms of the affordable requirements, we had discussions, in-depth discussions, I think, about the base density, the bonus density, and the affordability requirements. And the way it's now written as our final proposal is 20% of the base units are affordable for people who make 80% of the median income. And then 50% of the units that are part of the bonus density will be affordable to people who make 60% of the area median income. And I think there was a little bit of an ambiguity in this language, and I cleaned that up as well, but now they're pretty consistent and clear. So those are the only two changes that we've proposed. We hope that the regulation is acceptable to you, and we're certainly willing to continue to discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay,
Kitty, could we leave his regulation up on the screen?
I can do that.
Thank you.
That'd be great for everyone to see.
I've spoken to several members since the last hearing, and reminding all of us again that we are on our third hearing pertaining to this. One notice that I felt was important to include or consider in regards to this regulation was changing the bonus density from 5 to 2. I think 2 is a more realistic number. And again, by doing that, we will give them a bonus if they give us affordable units at 60%. The other item was that I thought it was also important to restrict the residential units to 1 or 2 bedrooms because of the need for 1 and 2 bedrooms apartments. The third item deals with open space, an open space requirement. What I have proposed, and you'll notice it when you read it in the drive, was that there should be a reserve of 25% of the parcel as open space. Or there's an opportunity to work with us and pay a fee in lieu of open space equal to no more than 10%. And that's based on our DCD regulations. I do feel that even though Route 6, when you look at Route 6, it looks like a developed area. And yes, there are some bare spots there due to undeveloped areas that were not developed. But I do feel that in the future that we should have the opportunity to look at possibly creating green space corridors and things of that nature. This particular part of the regulation would not apply to this particular potential development that is occurring at 4850 Stony Hill Road. And the reason for that is you have to remember, number one, this was part of an existing subdivision where the town has received, I believe it was approximately 3 acres to the rear of the property that we have recently dedicated to the Rubino family.
Okay, so thank you. David, do we have anyone ready to ask questions from the public?
And we can close-
Public comment?
We can
Public
close
comment?
the screens and so we can see everybody.
Sure, I'll do that right now. Oh, never mind, I'll have that done for me. Okay, so if anyone has public comment that they want to offer, the way to go about doing that would be to raise your hand. You can go about raising your hand by accessing the toolbar at the bottom of the Zoom app and clicking on the reactions icon. Doing so brings up an icon for you to raise your hand. If you're participating by phone, you would press the *9 buttons on your keypad, and that lets us know that you have public comment to offer. I'm seeing 2 hands raised, and we'll go by in order for those that have raised their hands. First, I'm seeing a Seth Davis, Copper Square.
Yes, thank you and good evening, everyone. I'm Seth Davis. I'm the president of the Copper Square Homeowners Association, and it's my first time at a Town of Bethel meeting. I have to say to members of the commission, I've been in your place. The town I lived at before, I served on planning and zoning boards. That's what we call them in New York State, where I lived for several years. I chaired both the planning and zoning boards in my municipality and had to approve several projects like this. So I know what you're going through. The comments I'm about to make are my own personally. They don't necessarily represent the views of my neighbors at Copper Square, but I can tell you that people are very concerned, very interested in this process and anxious to be involved. I want to leave you tonight with 3 main points. Point 1, I think it's very important that you continue to separate out this overlay proposal and the specific proposal for 48 Stony Hill Road. The 2 are distinct proposals. They each have their different merits. I can tell you that overall in the planning and zoning field, the type of overlay district that's proposed here is a widely appreciated concept and one that you should not throw away lightly. But your first duty here is to decide what's best for the town. And from what I understand, having listened to your previous hearings, you don't have particular data, you don't have a specific study to this situation, and that should trouble you. You need to consider the overall impact of this proposal on the entire Route 6 corridor, on the entire town of Bethel. We heard tonight another proposal already coming in that is going to have an incremental effect. Hope you'll consider that. Hope you'll consider all of this together. The chart that the staff put up on the site, looking at the additional units for density through the bonus coming up here, is most revealing, and I call it to all of your attention, because you're talking about more than just one property here. You're talking about a large slate of them that could be affected by this proposal. You're talking about an increase of not just dozens, as the chart indicates, but if you look at the basic proposal, which I understand that it is moving from a required density of 10 units per acre to 20, you're talking about hundreds of units that could come in as a result of this proposal. And you need to consider the whole of the impact, the cumulative impact on the town and the area. Most particularly is the traffic, and I'm really not familiar with how traffic is studied in this state, but anyone who lives on Stony Hill Road will tell you we have bad traffic problems already. And any additional residences will add to it. Any number of multiple proposals will add to it. And it's a situation of great concern right now, which can only get worse. Point number 2, please do not let your desire to have something built on this property lead you to make a bad decision for the whole community. Keep the decision separate, review what you want to see happen in the whole corridor, and make the right decision for this property. And point 3, please don't let the consideration of this amendment, this is the converse of point 2, if you will, please don't let the consideration of this amendment detract from your full consideration of the site-specific proposal. We understand that there's going to be, if the amendment is adopted, a fuller review of the proposal for the property. And we, the Copper Square community, intend to participate in that very closely. I can tell you right now, we see some very serious flaws with that proposal. You're talking in concept about putting in 137 units. Well, we have 136 units in Copper Square. Copper Square covers a vastly larger area than this proposed parcel. So you're talking about a drastic increase in density, which will have an effect on people in my community in Copper Square, let alone the whole town of Bethel and beyond. In that connection, we've learned a few lessons in Copper Square, and I think they should be taken into account here. The first of all, parking's a problem. I understand that this proposal is built upon a ratio of 1.7 parking spaces to each unit. That's what we have in Copper Square. We also have garages. We still have parking problems in Copper Square. If you build apartment houses with 1.7 per unit, you're going to have even bigger problems. And the owner of the property can tell you that there's already cars parked on that property because we don't have adequate parking in Copper Square. That's only going to get worse. Second thing is, you're going to get more children in this development than your formulas tell you. I've been at this planning game for over 30 years. Every development I've seen, every townhouse development I've seen, and I've been on both sides of it. I've represented developers. I've been on the planning commission. There are always more children that are planned, and people are having larger families in townhouses, in apartments. Housing is at a shortage. You need to account for that, and most importantly, you need to account for recreational areas for them. We don't have it at Copper Square. We have a real problem with that. We've talked about various opportunities to put in playgrounds. It doesn't work. Don't expect that the pond at Copper Square is going to become a park for your area. That's our property. That's private property. We can talk to you about some cooperative arrangements, but it's basically inadequate right now as a basic recreational area. You're going to have a pool. That's nice. We have a pool. It's not enough for our kids. We have a real problem for it, and I don't really know what the answer are. And as far as schools, I can assure you, you're going to have a bigger impact on the schools than you're planning right now. I don't know what numbers you had, assuming for Copper Square. We're buying Halloween candy for Sunday night. We bought 4 times what we've had to buy from 2 years ago. There are a lot of kids here. There's going to be more. And finally, if you're concerned about buffers, look at what you're proposing here. There's no buffer whatsoever between this and Copper Square. So those are just a few thoughts. I look forward to working with you more. I look forward to the opportunity to be heard, and I hope you'll feel free to ask me if there's anything that we as a homeowners association could provide as far as further insights and information about our community.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Next, I'm seeing BJ Liberty.
BJ Liberty.
BJ Liberty, 8 Grand Street. As you consider the overlay, a lot of what I was going to say, Mr. Davis just said, so that's good. But when I read your current Stony Hill Route 6 development, your maximum building coverage is not limited by your regulations. Because the proposal is for 4 stories, 137 units, I'm wondering if you should create a total coverage restriction because you're going to have so many parking spaces and so many units that whether rather than going for maximum building coverage, it would be total impervious surface coverage. Your green space is not only going to be play area, dog walking, aesthetic buffers, but you need to build in some green space, I believe. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, BJ. Is there anyone else who would like to speak up at this point? Anyone from the public?
I'm not seeing anyone, Kitty, but I would like to ask Mr. Davis if he would give his address.
Oh, that's right. Please.
Certainly, 213 Copper Square Drive in Bethel.
Thank you, sir.
213, you got that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, now we're going to go to commission members. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. Peter, please go right ahead. You're muted, Peter.
I raised my hand and everything, but I was muted.
I'm sorry.
First of all, the revisions to the proposed amendment suggested by staff are amenable to us. As we noted, the target for us was not 5 bonus units per acre, but only 2. And the math works out so that it's exactly what we're looking for. So, and the open space, and I do want to remind people of this, that the original development included the Maplewood Memory Care Facility, Copper Square, and this property. And a park was dedicated in the rear of Copper Square that is a practice field at this point. So there has already been a significant open space contribution. I don't want to get into too many details of our actual plan because the process here is that after this amendment is approved, we will make an application for a map amendment to apply the overlay district to this property, together with a site plan application, which will have all of the details of the proposed development. The conceptual plan that you've seen, we do have an additional park in the front corner, as well as the pool area. So there is additional open space provided. Any additional details will obviously be worked out over several nights with the commission. I do want to point out that we all have to remember that where we started is that there is an approved development for this property that consists of 60 apartments and over 40,000 feet of retail. It's approved. We could go get a building permit and put a shovel in the ground tomorrow. Essentially what we're doing is swapping a big chunk of that retail for additional apartments. And I bring that up because of the question of traffic. The state of Connecticut, OSTA, which is the Office of the State Traffic Authority, has responsibility for issuing what are called major traffic generator certificates for major traffic generators. And that's defined by size of building or number of parking spaces. This original development qualified for a certificate, which meant that the state reviewed that plan and approved it. We are confident that our traffic engineer, who does have to go get an amendment of that certificate from the state, will demonstrate to you that the swap of the retail for the residential will result in a reduction in the approved traffic. We think that's what's going to be shown when we do those actual reports. So I just wanted to mention that to remind everybody that the reason we're here is that proposed development, that approved development, hasn't worked for the last 8 years to actually get it built. And so we're trying something different. Thank you.
Okay, now the public may speak again if you so choose. Is there anyone else in the public who would like to speak up again? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to go to commission members. I'd like to start with Penny Kessler. You're muted.
Yep, I got it. So my concern, and please correct me if I'm wrong, after, I don't know, 4 years on P&Z, I'm still learning. The Schmood, love that name. is that I'm concerned that that may be too vague and open possibilities along the Route 6 corridor with unintended consequences. I understand that this is a very, very hard time, a very, very hard time for,
Okay, I will mute.
hold on one second, please. Yep, mute. I understand this is a hard time for businesses and retail businesses, especially, you know, what we used to call mom and pop. However, I am concerned that this this overlay proposal is reacting to the immediate as opposed to covering the potential. And we have had a really, really hard time between COVID and the big box stores before that, and the rise of places like organizations like Amazon. I'm concerned that we are placing not only the cart before the horse, but we're getting rid of the cart in favor of the horse. So that's it from me.
Thank you, Penny.
So I think if you review the text of the overlay district, the reason I believe it is not opening up unintended consequences is the locational requirements that are in the zone. That it all has to be in the RT6 district. The land has to be contiguous. You have to have at least 5 acres. You have to have road frontage of 140 feet, and you have to be served by sewer and water. There are only a couple properties, 4 or 5 properties that meet that definition. I think we can all pick those out as you drive along Route 6. It is possible that somebody could acquire multiple adjacent properties that are smaller and merge them together to form a 5-acre piece. And in which case we'd be seeing a redevelopment of those parcels, which might not be a bad thing. So I think if you take a step back and you look at why you do an overlay zone instead of amending the underlying zone, you do it so that you don't have the unintended consequences. You, the commission, if any property wants to come in and use this zone, have complete authority as a map amendment to decide whether it's appropriate for that property or not. Amendments, zone text amendments and map amendments are your highest level of discretion. You have the most authority over those things. So it is not an automatic right that somebody has to apply this zone to their property. They have to come to you and ask you if it's okay. So I think with all of that together, the unintended consequences are a minimal risk. I do think I want to push back a little bit on the idea that we're only dealing with the immediate, because again, the 40,000 feet of retail was approved in 2013, well before COVID. And I mean, yeah, Amazon was around. It wasn't what the juggernaut that it is today. It's been 8 years. I know we've been through this a lot. And I know the prior property owner had a lot to do with how it was marketed and what they were looking for. But nobody has said, yeah, that's a good idea, let me do it. And we're trying to remedy that. We're remedying it by changing the mix. That's basically it. So I hope that's responsive. I think I answered your question, I guess.
Thanks,
Maybe it was
Peter.
more of a comment.
Thank you, Peter.
Excuse me. Hi, Bob Legnard.
I have no questions right now.
All right, Kenny Parsons.
In general, I've liked the proposal, the way it looks, but I have to also admit to having a general unease about the size and scope of it. It's not that there's any one thing in particular, it's just a general unease about the total size of the whole unit. And it does look nice, and I don't have an issue with that, but I just thought I'd express my feelings about it.
Thank you, Ken. Excuse me. Linda Curtis.
I think that the changes made to the proposal make a lot of sense. I don't think that the buying habits of the public are going to change drastically once COVID goes away. We're all used to now buying stuff online. It's very easy as opposed to walking from store to store to buy stuff. So, I don't think that that's going to change in the near future, certainly. My one problem really with the overlay is that it seems so specific and is only going to benefit a few properties. And so for me, that's just a matter of fairness, that it seems like we're going to be making a change basically for one property. And so that's what I'm not comfortable with.
So I hope I can give you a comfort level that, first of all, as I just said, it's not available to just one property. It'll be available to 4 or 5 properties. But also you have this type of overlay zone in the town and has been used historically on different properties to accomplish specific goals. The DCD, which was mentioned in your initial meeting tonight, was exactly that. We had a affordability proposal, and we were able to settle that by adopting a DCD overlay zone, which does exactly this. It's available for people to use to do developments that are essentially clustered housing, and meet those requirements. The gas station on Route 58, owned by the Mitchells, is an overlay zone as well. It allowed that commercial use to continue in that zone, even though it's a residential zone and always has been and probably always will be. So these are very legitimate zoning tools that you can use to accomplish the goals you need to accomplish. Where I think you should be satisfied is, again, that a map amendment is required in order for anybody to apply this to their property. So you have the discretion on that. And if you think it's not being applied widely enough, you have the discretion to amend it and reduce the acreage. But at this point, I do think the question of unintended consequences is important. If you made these changes to the underlying zone and said everybody in the Route 6 zone could do this, then you'd have a much larger issue on your hand. By doing it in a limited fashion like this, you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I was certainly not trying to say that I want it expanded at all. But I
can do that for you.
No, thank you. And I do appreciate your clarification, Attorney Olson. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Rob Wallace? You're muted. Oh,
yep. No, and not to speak, I wasn't talking because there's just so much to consider here. And I think, great points have been made by everybody along this. The first application that we saw, or the pre-application at 6:30, did I hear correctly that a lot of the impetus for that was for what we're considering in this proposal was for the overlay zone? Does that play into the plan proposal for that? Did I misunderstand that?
No, it does not.
Okay. Even
I don't
still,
think that property's in the RT6 zone. So
okay,
yeah,
so just beyond it. But it's within what, we're a mile down the road, mile and a half.
That's correct.
Yeah. So I mean, regardless, what that points out to me is, back to the discussion of the TOD zone and the planning process that went into that, is it seems that whatever was done for Route 6, the fact that we're considering, all of these different proposals, maybe it's coincidence within such a small space, points to a need for, a better master plan, or maybe just an updated master plan for the economics of the times, and to what's happened since the last plan for Route 6. So that's my only comment, is that we keep the big picture in perspective and think of ways that we can push that issue, and as a commission see that that there is a larger plan, something that's not just a new text amendment or a new overlay district every couple of months.
Thank you,
So,
Rob.
yep, that's my point.
Thank you. Rich Tibbetts, would you care to comment?
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with Rob's statement. I think, it's due for Route 6 is due for a kind of a review of what the overall plan is there, given the changes in the world and all that good stuff. I tend to agree with what Penny said. I think maybe it's not short-sighted, but it sure is opportunistic versus creative. Like you said, Peter, there's a plan in place that you can put a shovel in the ground tomorrow, build retail, build housing, all good. So I liked that plan when we approved it a while back. I guess I share some of the same concerns, and I know what you said is it's only a few properties, but if you lump those couple of properties that fall under this overlay, that's the rest of Route 6.
So,
could I, excuse me, Peter. Excuse me, Peter, have all the commission members spoken?
No.
Could we take the rest of their comments, and then I have a few
I
comments.
was just going to say that. Thank you very much. Okay, we have Rob Stoll.
Thank you, Kitty. Attorney Olson, can just take me a step back, or maybe 2 or 3 steps back, and talk a little bit about the affordable housing component here. I know in the text amendment, we have 2 different percentages. You're talking in one case, 80% of the area median, and in the other case, 60%. I believe those are for the bonus units. I guess what I'm asking, can you just spend a couple minutes and just go over that component again, please?
I can, but Beth just said she wanted all commission members to finish before she spoke. And
Yes.
so,
Okay, all right, so we only have 2 more, okay? And then Peter, you can speak. John Lennon.
All right, this has been quite a process, but I think this is a fine example of the system working. I think that there was great input from the applicant, the attorney, from Beth, everybody in the land use, and the commission. I think this application should be approved. And there was a lot of thought put into it by everybody. Thank you, Kitty. That's all I have. I think the compromise, I think the process of getting to the final product really worked, and I'm proud of it.
Thank you. Okay, my only comment was the same comment I had from last week, Peter. And the only thing about this application that I don't like is your lack of green space.
Wait, whoa! This is an overlay. This is a
no,
public hearing.
okay. What he did show us. What he did show us. Okay, John, he did show us an area, and I did mention that when it comes to application time, what I would like to see is more green space, because there will be families there, and there will be a need for it. And that little park on the corner was not enough. Perhaps what I'm saying really is maybe it's just a little bit too large. And that I'd like you to consider families and who's going to be living there and what they would like to see. Okay, thank you.
Kitty.
All right, Peter.
I have a question of Peter. Peter, correct me if I'm wrong. What you're proposing here is basically creating an entry card that will allow them to get to a map amendment. Is that true?
correct.
Yes.
Okay, and my second statement is, I've reviewed all the former meetings since I missed several of the meetings on this public hearing. So I've reviewed everything up to this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, Peter.
Beth,
Beth, do you want him not to say
I'm sorry,
sorry?
Peter.
I'm trying,
I just want,
but
Or Beth?
before Peter starts in response to most of your some of your questions,
Yeah.
I just want to take you back a little bit as far as planning functions that you've done over the last years. I think the most important thing is, number one, we do have the Route 6 study. I still think the Route 6 study sticks. If anyone wants to know how we came about to get to that point, it's too long of a dissertation to take place in a public hearing format, but I will remind the commission that it all started with Target in 2003 and a court case to allow Target to put in their building. After that was done, we took it upon ourselves to start to examine Route 6 and do the Route 6 study. It was a very involved process. During our plan of conservation and development that was just approved in 2020, you've identified by map where you want affordable housing to be located, realizing after the fact, when you approved an affordable housing amendment for the Route 6 zone, that wait a minute, we didn't allow for an increase in density in order to make this work and happen. And that decision was based on 20 years of experience with the Affordable Housing Act. You realize that in order to get the numbers that you want for affordable housing, you have to have a density allowance. When you consider your other zones that you allow for this type of development, your TOD zone and areas of that nature, you are finding that it works. Also along the same lines, I want to remind the commission, and one point that was brought up by BJ Liberty is that there's been a lot of discussion about open space. Going forward, if this amendment was to be approved, this text amendment, when you review the documents in the file, you'll see that now there is a requirement for open space. And it's 25%. Not 10% like you would find in a normal subdivision under your present regulations. The gentleman from Copper Square, absolutely. They're looking for amenities for outdoor living, for their children living in the complex. Again, how many times have you guys dealt with affordable housing projects, 830Gs, with no amenities associated with that? It's a normal request and it should be honored. Taking that into consideration, again, by inserting this open space amendment, it will help alleviate some of those issues. The amendments that are proposed by staff are not in relation to this particular property. It's taking into consideration the overall makeup of Route 6 and the properties that this could possibly affect. That's all I have to say for now, Peter.
Well, you said most of what I was going to say.
There you go.
She probably did a better job and she didn't cost $300 an hour, so.
Peter, may we hear from you now?
Certainly. Let me see if I can respond to Rob Stoll's question. We have built into this zone an affordability requirement. And that's something that you put into the RT6 zone. It's something that's in the TOD zone. And where we start is with the base density of 20 units an acre. For those units, we're required to provide 20% of those units as affordable to people who make 80% of the area median income. Then we had built in this additional bonus units because we want more density, but we wanted there to be a carrot to allow you to give us that additional density. And so for the additional density, we have to provide half of those units as affordable. And they're affordable to people who make 60% of the median income, which is not part of your TOD regulations, for example. So for us, we end up with about 12 or 13 bonus units. So we're going to have 6 or 7 units at 60%, just depending on how that math works out, for people who make 60% of the area median income. And that's about $300 or $400 below market rate for one of those units. Beth talked about the planning processes you've gone through. My recollection is that for the recent plan of development, you did not undertake a full planning study of the entire town like you did in the 2007 Plan of Conservation and Development. That essentially, because we've done so much good planning since 2007, the state allowed you to adopt, I guess I'll call it a summary POCD. So you haven't done anything recently, but you could have, and decided that what we're doing is good enough, which I think is right. That was the right thing to do. We've looked at a lot of things that are good. So the final thing I want to say is that including affordability requirements in these zoning districts is an important thing for the town, because fundamentally it gets affordable units in the town for people who need them. You know, putting aside anything having to do with the statute, that's a laudable goal. But we live in a world where 830G exists. And so there is a secondary consideration of putting these provisions in these zoning regulations, which is that you get units that count towards your 8-30G requirements of 10%, towards your moratorium requirements. And so, you know, you're going to end up with significant number of points towards these requirements coming out of any approval here. And there's a tertiary reason we put these in the zone. And it is so that you are providing a vehicle for development of property that has a lesser affordability requirement than 8-30G has, to provide an incentive for a developer to use something that you've looked at and said, we're okay with this. And yes, 20% is a significant number of units. In our case, it's going to be even more than that. But there's always in the background, and I'm not just talking about us, there's always in the background an 8-30G option where they don't really care what you think. They just make the proposal, provide 30% of the units, and off they go. So that you have to keep in mind with any zoning district that you're adopting, that one of the reasons to adopt them with these affordability requirements is to provide an alternative way for development to happen without resorting to 8-30G. And that's another laudable goal. So I think that more or less answers all the questions that you've asked. If I missed anything, let me know.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. So, Beth, do you have anything you want to add? Or should we be calling for a vote here?
Not at this moment, no. I think that we've pretty much received all of the information and data that we need from the applicant. This was a very good discussion. I thank everyone for it. I think that we're at the point now that any further information, or just not information, excuse me, any further information, not information, any further discussion can happen after the close of the public hearing. Please excuse me, I'm doing two things at the same time here.
Okay, I don't think I see any reason to keep this hearing open, so shall we close this public hearing right now?
I agree. We could close the public hearing. Thank
Commission
you,
members?
Madam Chair.
I see hands?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this hearing has been closed.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much. Now, next on our agenda is a public hearing for David. Now, I thought, forgive me if I mispronounce, Pungenberg? How do I say, is that right? Have I said
I
that
believe
right?
it's Pinenberg, I believe is.
Oh, thank you, Pungenberg. 830G affordable housing, 7 new units, 9 total, 64 Worcester Street. And for this is that you, Neil? Neil, you're muted. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm wrong. John, could you read the legal notice, please?
Yeah, so we got a legal notice because we're going to start a new public hearing. Thank you, Kitty.
That's right.
Or Madam Chair. To Planning and Zoning Commission, 1 School Street, to appear October 15th and October 23rd, 2021. A public notice. The Bethel Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on the following application on October 26th, 2021 at 7 p.m. using the virtual platform Zoom. 64 Worcester Street, David Pinenberg, is that right?
Pinenberg. That's what he said, Pinenberg.
An 8-30G affordable housing site plan, 9 units. The application and supporting documents can be found here on the drive at google.com drive folders. The application can be found on the Town of Bethel website under announcements, or contact the land use office at 203-794-8578, or email the land use at bethel-ct.gov. Pat Riss, Chairwoman. That's the legal notice.
Now we have a staff report from Beth Cavagna. Could you read that, please?
Yeah, we have one memorandum. to the Planning and Zoning Commission from Beth Cavagna, Planning and Zoning Director, staff report. David Pinenberg, 64 Worcester Street, 8-30G, 9 units. The application before you this evening is for an 8-30G affordable housing project located in the RR10 zone and consists of approximately 32,887 square feet, or approximately 3/4 of an acre, with an existing older Victorian home. One of 3 that were built here in town. The proposed, consisting of 9 units in total, converts the existing home to 3 units, 2 bedrooms, 2 3-bedrooms, and 1 2-bedroom unit. 6 1-bedroom units are proposed to be built, 2 where the former garage was located and 4 to the rear of the property. The applicant recently received an approval from the Inland Wetlands Commission for 12 units. The plan before you this evening is a result of staff working with the applicant to reduce the unit count, decrease the impervious area, creating more green space for the tenants, utilizing and preserving the existing structure, and create an architecturally appealing structure that does not stand out in the effort of overutilizing the existing statute, but blend in the using existing typographs and attitudes found within the area. It should be noted that the property is within a 1/4 mile of the TOD zone, and the town of Bethel the town of Bethel is finalizing a sidewalk connection within the Worcester Street area and connections to Greenwood Avenue and Durant Avenue. The following departments have issued reports that can be found in the Google Drive. The town consulting engineer, Wright Pierce, it's dated October 7th, 2021. The Bethel Health Department has a memo dated 10/2/21, and the Public Utility Department dated 10/21 of 21. Staff has received verbal confirmation from the Fire Marshal, Tom Galliford, who has no issues with the turning radius of the parking area for fire apparatus. The Bethel Police Department has reviewed the proposed, but does not have a final approval from the Police Commission. Staff has reviewed comments submitted from all of the above and find them consistent with any application for development and not unreasonable to the address prior to the decisions by the Planning and Zoning Commission. It is in the applicant's advantage to make these revisions during the process. So any issues can be resolved and a clear decision by the commission, can be made. The information or requests for revisions are minor in nature and consistent with the application. An 8-30G application is not an excuse to be used for not providing basic requests pertaining to the proposed development. It just delays the action by the commission. That is the memorandum.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. And that's all the town comments we have. Neil Marcus?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, members of the commission, for the record, Neil Marcus, usually at 158 Deer Hill Avenue, joining you tonight from Sedona, Arizona. So,
well, there you go.
I'm a little informal for you guys tonight, but I wanted to catch up with you. The staff report describes the application. We spent a great deal of time in inland wetlands on this property in review. And at that point, a lot of the engineering issues were already discussed. So I think when Wright Pierce took a second look at this thing for planning P&Z, I think that they're already somewhat familiar with it. The difference, though, in the time that we were before inland wetlands and this evening is that the project, as Beth has pointed out in her report, has been modified to address a lot of the comments, and particularly the scope of the project has been significantly reduced. At this point, I know Steve Trinkus is on your screen, and I think it would be appropriate to turn it over to Steve to take a run through the site plan and the proposal that's before you. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. This is Steve Trinkus. I'm a licensed professional engineer with an office in Southbury, representing the applicant. Beth, would you allow me to share my screen, please?
Screen sharing is enabled, Mr. Trinkus.
Thank you. Bear with me 1 second. Everybody see the site plan?
Now we do.
I hope. Okay. As Neil pointed out, there's been a reduction in the number of units. I'm going to go first to the existing conditions map. We have Worcester Street at the top of the page. We have the existing frame house, and we have a garage, and we have a yard area, mostly lawn, and there's a sewer easement for a sewer line that serves the property to the south of us. That goes through the site. There's an intermittent drainage ditch along the eastern property line that runs to the north and goes under a culvert under Worcester Street and continues on its merry way. So the proposal, the modified proposal before you tonight, we're widening the existing driveway to 24-foot wide, which is exceeds the minimum requirement under the fire code, which is 20 foot. It's on the west side of the house, comes in, again, we have the units, as Neil pointed out, in the existing house, the other 2 1-bedrooms in where the garage is. And then in the back, there are 4 single-story 1-bedroom units. The original plan, which we got approved through the Wetlands Commission, had 7 units that were 2 stories, and they were 2 bedrooms each. We also had a driveway that went out on the east side of the house to Worcester Street, a 1-way out, and 3 parallel parking spaces there. Those have been eliminated, and now the parking lot just ends just behind the house. So there's been a reduction of impervious area, obviously by elimination of the driveway and the 3 additional units. From a stormwater management perspective, nothing changed from the wetlands approval. We have a series of catch basins on the site. It goes to a manhole where the water quality flow goes to a water quality unit. Larger flow events greater than the water quality storm, which is 1 inch of rain in 24 hours, go around the water quality unit, goes to an underground Cultex system with an outlet to a riprap swale that's flared in the brook so that the flow will join the existing flow in this intermittent stream and head north. And this was approved as part of wetlands. There is no reduction of this because we reduced the impervious area. The area that was here going out to Worcester actually was draining out to the road, so it did not go into the detention system. The reduction of units didn't change the hydrologic numbers significantly enough to change the stormwater management system. So we left it as is in this particular case. So we have a full erosion sedimentation control plan that, again, as Neil pointed out, was very much reviewed by Wright Pierce during wetlands. The additional comments we had from Wright Pierce, I had inadvertently, we have a retaining wall on the western side of the site. And on the existing conditions map, the curtain drain that's at the base of this happened to be on that plan. So that was simply taken off. They were concerned that we were increasing the impervious area to Worcester Street, which we're not. We're actually reducing it from 6,919 square feet to 4,549 square feet, which is a 34% reduction of impervious area draining out to Worcester Street itself. The 2 units, each of the units, I'm going to zoom in. The units 1 and 2 are both at elevation 388.5 for a first floor, but you'll notice the sidewalk elevation coming in front of unit 2 is 386. So there'll be internal steps going into this unit to get up to the first floor. That's a similar condition to unit 4, that there'll be steps to come up into those units. So the sidewalk is sloping from the west to the east, and simply the steps will be inside the front doors going into the units itself. In the garage area, the existing slab is about 384. We're going to raise that up to work with the parking so that the sidewalk here, which will be about 388 contour will come into the foundation, but then we just have a nice simple step into the sidewalk. Wright Pierce had a comment about parking grades within this area. All of the grades within the parking lot in front of the garage are 6% or less. And I gave in my response dated October 15th, you know, the numerical differences between spot elevations versus the distance. So the maximum is 6% and the other couple are around 4%. Wright Pierce asked for cleanouts on the roof drains. That is not a planning and zoning issue. It is not something that actually is done even on single family houses. Your gutter drains come down from your roof system, go to a PVC pipe and, you know, go off to a stormwater management system or a daylight. Originally from this manhole here with the bypass pipe, this was a 90-degree turn. With the HDPE pipe, which is a plastic pipe, they actually make a 90-degree angle. In this case, I changed it to a 45, which they also make. So I don't need another manhole here. We'll just put the bend in the pipe and the water will go that way. The retaining wall or ledge cut, we're not sure, we didn't do test pits up here. This is 10 feet away from the western end of unit 1 to the base of the wall. And it's the grading pitches to this curtain drain, which is right along the front of the wall. And from the corner here, then it's conveyed out to a riprap pad so that any groundwater we might encounter will be simply conveyed around the building and discharged. There's no construction on the road, so Connecticut DOT standards, you know, do not apply. The town of Bethel standards apply because this is a town road. We had bollard lights shown. There was also a detail for a concrete bollard that was simply taken off the plan. So the other details removed. Again, we have a stop sign and we go to the traffic plan. Here, Wright Pierce has suggested putting the stop sign up at the stop bar. We prefer to put it here to warn people that you have to stop before getting there. I actually had another project where a stop sign on a DOT road was right at the stop bar, and people unfortunately stuck their nose out over the edge of the road, which, you know, on a DOT road can, you know, you can get run over. So we rather put the stop sign back a little bit where it's on the straight section of the road and have the stop bar right there for that. Let's see. For parking, you know, we have 17 spaces, and for 9 units, it's 1.88 spaces per unit. Here, this says 1.67. That's a typo on my part. I apologize, but it's 1.88 spaces per unit. They asked for a detail for parking striping. We haven't done that on prior applications. That's more of a construction detail, but in general, the white lines for parking spaces are 3 or 4 inch white paint. They're put on obviously after the parking lot is completed. There was a comment that the aerial fire truck movement had went over a curb line. It actually did not. It's right up to it coming in. This is the aerial truck, which is the largest Bethel truck. So, you know, it can come in, it can back up and fight the fire. It can pull back out and go out onto Worcester Street. The, oops, let me go back to one plan and zoom out to the other side. It was actually the path of a garbage truck that did just go over the curb line. So we redid the vehicle turning movement so that the turning movements are all within the driveway and there is no going over the property line. In speaking with my client this afternoon, he has spoken with Nita Hill, who lives to the east of the site on the other side of the intermittent stream, who requested some evergreen screening, and Dave is happy to put that in. And additionally, the property to the west of the site, the JAB development here, the new driveway is about 3 foot off of the edge of their existing driveway, and he will also work with them to put in appropriate screening or perhaps a solid privacy fence here at the time of construction with whatever they would like in that area to provide a visual separation between the two driveways. And, you know, the stormwater management system, which I went over before and was thoroughly reviewed during the wetlands process, provides a zero increase for all the storm events up through the 25-year storm. And there is a very slight increase in the 50 and 100, but the town of Bethel requires a 25-year storm. So we are providing that requirement. In looking at the Public Utility Commission comments today, we'll be happy to address those. Those are mostly at the construction stage of it. One of the things that we are going to do is a little different. Let me just go back to my utilities drawing, is the new water line will come in from Worcester Street coming in here. You can see the line with water on it. It will come into the main house, and then individual service lines will go from the main house to the 4 units in the back and the 2 new units in the garage, in addition to serving the building, so that, you know, the individual meters will be in one building for all 9 residential units for the ease of the client, you know, to have them all in one place. So I'm happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think it's time to go to the public now. David, are there any people who are waiting to ask questions?
There appears to be one, and I'll just do a brief recap for those that have joined since I last advised on how to offer public comment. You would use the the reactions icon to access the raise the hand button, and you can find that icon by bringing your cursor to the bottom of the Zoom application. If you're participating by phone, you would press *9. When you offer public comment, please give your name and your full address. First off, I'm seeing Kitty is John Hill.
Mr. Hill?
Oh, hello. Let me know if you guys can see me and hear me okay.
You
You're a little dark.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Yeah, sorry about the light. So I'm over at 56 Worcester Street, so a couple houses up. And I guess I just wanted to bring to the commission's attention sort of the problems that we do have with water in the light of the drainage ditch and so forth at the property. So currently, this is the back of my yard. I'm in about maybe 2 to 3 inches of water. Sorry. Yeah. And then if we look at the drainage ditch itself, it's over here. It's pretty near capacity already. And this is when I was looking up today. Sorry, don't want to fall into that. But yeah, we had about ½ inch of rain today. And this is already sort of the typical conditions we experience here. So I guess I'm just cautious of any increases in impermeable surface. And I do hope that any sort of mitigation strategies for the new development are in place, just so that it doesn't get much worse upstream. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see another hand, Vincent, and is it Maureen?
Yes, can you hear us?
Yes, can we have your full name and address, please?
Vincent Loring, 68 Worcester Street.
Okay, and yes, you have something to say?
Yeah, so we are, James. Sorry. Yeah, so our property right abuts the proposal. Well, so the 2-story garage, well, the existing garage is right abuts our property, and you know, we also have concerns about the privacy. You know, like that's our backyard. We have a pool there, and we spend a lot of time right in that corner of the property. And I'm just concerned that raising that, you know, is going to just impinge on that a little bit. And I know, you know, the presenter just spoke about talking to the other surrounding property owners about working to put screening up evergreens in that area. And I was just hoping that they could reach out to us as well, so we can discuss any impact it's going to have on our property there as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. David, did you see anyone else?
Thank you.
I do not appear to see anyone else at this time with a raised
Okay,
hand.
so I don't know, Mr. Marcus or Mr. Trinkus, would you like to answer these questions?
Yeah, Kitty, I'd like to just address Mr. Hill's comments. John, we do have a large stormwater management system here where my cursor is now. And while the town of Bethel requirement is a 0 increase in the peak rate for what's called the 25-year storm, in this case, we're providing 0 increase from the water quality storm. So 1 inch of rain all the way up to the 25-year event, which is under what we call the NOAA 14 rainfall data of 6.8 inches in a 24-hour period. There will not be any increase in the rate of runoff that ultimately is discharged to the drainage ditch here. So we are exceeding the Bethel's requirement because I'm providing detention even for all these smaller storms. When we look at historical rainfall records, 85 to 90% of all annual rainfall events are, believe it or not, less than 1 inch in 24 hours. And so by providing detention for the water quality storm, we're really exceeding what the town's requirement is, because if you look at the historical records again, a rainfall event is measured 24 hours from midnight to midnight. And if it rains beyond that, it's just another storm. So it's basically a 7-inch rainfall event you will not find in the actual rainfall records if you looked at weather station records. But like I know I looked at a site in Greenwich today, and as of 5 o'clock this afternoon, they had 1.6 inches of rain from the storm that hit us today up to that point. So again, while it does downpour periodically, there was also periods where it was very light, but we are exceeding the town of Bethel requirements with our underground detention system. Additionally, that first inch of runoff from the paved parking lot and the roof areas goes through what's called a water quality unit that traps sediment. It also traps oils and other floatables in a system, so that we're reducing the pollutant loads that would get out to Worcester, or I guess to the stream that goes under Worcester Street. Otherwise, right now, the runoff from the site drains right out to Worcester, makes a right-hand turn, goes down. There's a couple paved, actually even graded leak offs, and the water comes around the eastern end of this head wall and just goes right into the brook. So there's no detention, there's no treatment of the runoff. So what we're proposing is a significant improvement. For Maureen and Vincent, your property being located here west of the site, these will be less visible because now these are 1-story units, not 2-story units. Also, the first floor here is 388.5. So the bottom of the roof line where your gutters would be roughly about 10 feet higher at 398. And the elevation at the property line is about 407. So these are going to be below yours, but I'm sure the owner can discuss, perhaps screening up here. One of the reasons we did the retaining wall was not to regrade this slope and have to clear everything that's already on there. So, the area between this retaining wall and your property line is going to remain as it currently is today.
If I could, it's not those units in the rear that I'm concerned about. It's the garage, because that is, you see how the property slopes down, and that area is level with our backyard. Well, closer to level with our backyard. And I'm just concerned that putting a second story on that is going to be, the top of the garage is already visible to us from our patio on the side, and just adding another story there, I'm just worried about the additional visibility that is going to be right behind the garage.
I'm sure the owner would be happy to discuss it with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would have any questions for Mr. Trinkus or Mr. Marcus? No? Okay, so I think we're going to go to commission members now. Mr. Lennon, do you have any questions? John Lennon?
Sorry, I don't, but I just want to have one comment. I appreciate the applicant coming in with a pre-application and working with the town officials. I think this is a testament that when you come in and you try to do it right, it just seems like a smoother project. I almost believe in Santa Claus tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, Bob Legnard?
I think Beth had a question about the sidewalk enhancement in the area. Is there sidewalk planned in front of this, or upgraded?
Yeah, Bob, we're putting in a new sidewalk from the front entrance of the building out to where to our property line. There is an existing partial concrete sidewalk within the road right of way. Obviously, if the town is going to expand the sidewalk across the frontage, that we'll make sure ours matches into theirs.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Rob Stoll?
I'm sorry, I was muted as well. Steve, do you have an approximate walking distance from this site to the train station?
Oh, let me just think about it. Dave may be the better judge of that than me. I'm just going to take a guess and see if I'm close.
Down and around.
God, it almost might be faster to go north and go by the self-storage to get to the train station.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. This property is pretty much just north of the sharp turn. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a turn here, and if you go further to the north, you hit the stop sign where the self-storage is, and you can go around that way to the train station. I mean, I'm going to harbor a guess that it's probably about 3/4 of a mile if you walk either way to get there. I mean, the straight line would be cut up through the backyards of everybody, kind of due south to probably get there.
Yeah, that's going to work.
I agree, Rob, I agree with Steve. There are shortcuts, but we don't need to discuss them here, but I think it's 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah, okay,
It's about,
that sounds, because it's about 6/10 from my house, so, all right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
it comes out to roughly about 2,400 feet, just from what I just did, Beth.
Okay, well, half a mile, give or take.
Thank you. Okay, Rob Wallace?
So just piggybacking on that, there's no sidewalks along Worcester there, or only to one side of the property, is that correct?
There's a sidewalk currently along the frontage from the head wall running up to where the edge of the driveway is, and that stops. And then if you go in front of Nita Hill's property to the east, there's a partial piece of sidewalk, and that's it. So you've got,
And that's where it ends, right?
yeah, you've got pieces of it, but they're not connected.
Can you help me understand the diagram that's on the bottom right corner of page 8 on the site plan?
Okay, let me go to point.
I know the scale is really weird, but I just want to understand what I'm looking at.
This was a cross-sectional scale through the 4 new units to show the existing grade is this line where I'm tracing it. And then, we have our rock cut and the proposed grading, and then these are each of the units with their first floor elevations. So, if we brought them down lower, we would have had a much deeper cut into the hillside. And again, with the driveway coming in, I had to balance those grades coming in. So that's why these units are, the first floors are, in the case of unit 1, I mean, the center of it is about a foot above the grade. And then, unit 2, you got about 4 foot above the existing grade. Unit 3 is 3 feet, and probably going about 4 foot for unit 4. But again, we're going to have a foundation wall, so the grade outside the foundation behind the building isn't changing. We're going to just have the exposed concrete wall. We also do have evergreen screening of arborvitaes on the south side of the building. Let me just go to that plan. So we have evergreen screening along the back side of the building, in addition to several maples and oaks that already exist there.
Is that all you have, Rob?
Those were my only questions. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Linda Curtis?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Rich Tibbetts?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Penny Kessler?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Kenny Parsons?
Thank you. I'm glad that you reached out to the neighbors there and you're willing to work with them ahead of time. That's a great start. Thank you very much.
Steve, you mentioned an excavation of rock. Is there going to be a lot of excavation on the site?
Not really. We tried to, there is going to be a cut here, Kitty, between unit 1 and where the wall will be. We are cutting that material out, but that will be used to raise the grade for these units here. Other than that, we're very close to existing grade. If I can go.
So you're not going to have a lot of removal?
No, absolutely not. No, we're going to use it on site. And otherwise, the grading is probably within a foot of what is there today.
Okay.
So,
and when you talk about your landscaping plan, excuse me, I see maples. What are the evergreens?
Arborvitaes.
Okay, all right, that's okay. Now, one other thing, with all the piping and everything else, it's a lot of this land that I see here. You're going to have a lot of green space.
Yeah, actually, because we eliminated the driveway, Beth's suggestion, on the eastern side of the house, and I'll trace it from our new sidewalk along the east side of the house, along our parking area and the building all the way down to the stream. This will all be green space.
Thank you very much.
And plus, again, as I pointed out before, this area
on the other side
where the Laurie's property is also going to remain in its natural condition.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, that is all I have. Beth, do you have any questions?
Yeah, we just need a little bit of clarifications.
Sure.
And this was from the fire marshal, Steve, on your plan where the driveway is.
Yep.
Is that all going to be paved? Because
Yes.
it shows.
Yeah, no, the existing driveway, what there is in the existing driveway, let me actually go to that sheet, Beth, it'll be a little clearer.
Thank you.
Existing driveway is paved. It's right along the western property line, right here where I'm going with my mouse. There is a gravel widened area that's opposite the existing house. Those are both going to be removed and we will have a brand new 24-foot wide paved driveway that comes in. All the parking will also be paved.
And that's what I told them.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to verify that on the record.
Yep.
Pertaining to the lighting, can we go to where your lighting is? Where your detail in the plan itself. I thank you for doing the legends pertaining to the landscaping and things of that nature, but I couldn't find the bollards.
Yeah, bollard lights, we have.
Can you point them out? Make it big.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
we'll
Steve.
start over here on the left by the garage. There's one right at the corner of the sidewalk in the parking.
All right.
There's this one, we have one here. The new sidewalk for the existing house, there's a bollard right there. We have bollards on the two corners of the parking lot near unit 1, another one by unit 4, one here, one right before the dumpster. There's also likely to be, like an exterior, I won't say post lamp, that's probably the wrong term, but an exterior light outside the door of each unit also.
Like a porch light. A porch light.
Yeah, porch light.
Like
And there's
that.
another bollard here where we have a new concrete walkway. So, not tall lights, just enough to provide, safe walking, for pedestrians within the parking lot.
Okay. I would like to ask the applicant if it's at all possible. I know sometimes with insurance, for insurance purposes, you have to have a lighted area constantly, but to get taken into consideration, maybe doing timers or something of that nature, or sensing lights, or you understand what I mean?
Yeah, well, the bollards would all be, the dark sky compliant, which every town has, and so they're downdraft and they're lighting the ground, and that's why we don't have any light posts per se. But I'm sure Dave can discuss that, with you.
Okay, thank you. The other comment I want to make is thank you for maintaining the previously reviewed stormwater management system. I know that you could have probably made some changes pertaining to that, but I appreciate the effort and time that went into putting that together. Something about, let's see. Stay with me for 1 minute. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Let's go to, in regards to Ray Pierce's comments pertaining to this application. And I think we can stay right where we are, Steve. When they were talking about the retaining wall next to Unit 1, if you could enlarge that just a little bit, or is it as large as it'll go? Okay, thank you. Their discussion wasn't in regards to the west side of the unit where the retaining wall is located. It was really what they were pointing out was the distance to the rear. Correct. And that it appears to be that's maybe a foot off of the foundation of the building.
It's actually a couple feet off, but the key is that the first floor of Unit 1 is 388.5. The retaining wall is 387 here. The base of it is 386 here, but the top is 392. So this is tapering uphill from the end up to where I have the D. So it's tapering up, but it's a couple feet off of the foundation.
When you say a couple of feet, I mean, is it walking wise, or are you talking to somebody to be able to walk around that?
I mean, you could probably walk sideways through it. It's not designed. We don't want, people walking, between the wall and the foundation. We could probably put at some point, maybe just wood frame between the end of the wall and the back of the unit on each end, so that it's not nobody gets the idea they can walk behind it.
I'm just, because we have the wall, then we have the curtain drain there too, the outlet, right?
Yeah,
So
the
if
pipe,
somebody wants to go in and maintain it, how are they going to do it?
You're gonna, the end of the drain is at point D, and from here, it's simply a solid 6-inch pipe. It's the green plastic pipe with gasketed joints. There's nothing to maintain.
Okay.
It's a straight shot at a 1% pitch. So there's just, it's there in the event we have groundwater bleeding out, if it's a rock cut, to just simply convey that water around the unit and not have, a wet spot in that area.
But it's saying that there's a 4-foot diameter pad of fieldstone. Do you mean it's there, or is it over on the other end of the building?
At the far end, the outlet is.
That's the confusing part.
Yeah, the outlet is out here, and that's where the riprap pad would be.
Okay, got it.
For it. So it's a straight shot of pipe, and then it just empties onto a riprap pad where it follows the contours down to the intermittent stream.
Okay.
Steve, quick question here, Steve. In the parking lot where it says concrete foundation remains, that's going away?
Yes, yes, it is. That's there now. So the same thing with this little paver area that's right behind the house. Those are going away.
Okay, and this is just my question, I guess. When you're dealing with gutters and roof drains and things of that nature, you're hooking your gutters into a drainage system that's going into a catch basin for drainage purposes. I mean, a lot of us with older homes, our gutters go out and you have the little leaders underneath them, they go out into the yard. How do you clean those gutters if you don't have a clean out on it?
Well, your gutters, either your gutters have a gutter guard on them to prevent debris from going in them in the first place, or you have the little wire baskets, and this is what I grew up with in my parents' house in Reading, is the little wire baskets are in the downspout, the top of the downspout in the gutter, and that prevents leaves and everything from washing down, and you clean out the gutter. Anything that flows down that gutter pipe, because it's a vertical pipe and the water flowing, any little organic debris in there is quite honestly going to get flushed right into the catch basin. It's, you have a PVC pipe at the corner, your aluminum gutter pipe comes down to it. It's just a loose connection there. And it's connected there. We don't put cleanouts on any type of gutter system. I have a commercial project actually in Stanford. It's a 187 unit building. And again, there were no cleanouts. The gutter drains come down and go right to a manhole in that case, but there were no cleanouts for it because the hydraulic head of the water will push anything out that could fall on it. But again, we don't have any big trees here. You know, they're going to put leaves in your gutter either, but your gutters themselves, most people now put on the leaf guard or a similar system, which prevents the organic leaves or twigs from falling in it and allows the water to drain into it. And you don't have to clean your gutters and they flow all the time with no problem.
Okay, so I have leaf guards. So what you're saying is basically with most new developments, they're using that type of a gutter system, and that's why you don't need cleanouts anymore. It's because the leaves aren't going in there.
Exactly. I mean,
okay. Because I know that during when you're constructing single family homes, that's just a standard requirement that you have cleanouts.
Well,
No, I'm just, that's why it stood out to me, Steve. I wanted to ask the question, that's all.
I've never seen cleanouts. I've never had a builder put cleanouts on a roof drain when it comes down from the house to a PVC pipe.
Okay,
So,
all right. And the last thing I wanted to bring up, and I'm just gonna ask you about is, it seems like we have a discrepancy again with the health department as far as size of the dumpster location, the dumpster. Can we please do what the health department has requested?
well, let me address that because I had conversations with several sanitarians from other towns. I had conversations with the state health department. I went through the Connecticut Public Health Code. The health department has absolutely no jurisdiction at a local or state level over the size of a dumpster pad. I also Googled sizes of dumpster pads. There is no defined standard. It depends on the size of the development. And in this case, for what we have here, it's more than adequate.
Steve,
that's the answer.
If I can interject, it's Neil Marcus. Steve is absolutely correct. There's no jurisdiction on this issue. And I know that Laura does this consistently. My suggestion is that the commission not get into the issue, but you can just make it as a condition of approval that we have to abide by any Connecticut statute that deals with the size of the dumpster, and we'll do it. Whatever the requirement is, we're going to do it. And
okay, Neil, let's get that. I hate, this is what annoys me, is that what we're going to be doing now is spending time dealing with a dumpster pad. And it is totally, Neil, it is totally unnecessary. Totally unnecessary. It is a minor request. It is constantly being asked and consistently by the health department. And I will tell you, the only reason I bring it up is because it always comes back and haunts me when it comes time for a CO.
Yeah.
And this commission will not approve.
The question is, do you know why the health department requests larger dumpster pads than anybody's requiring anywhere else? I've just fiberglass.
We are wasting, this is very, very upsetting, but I will tell you that she did.
Why don't we leave it this evening that Steve and I will address this issue and come up with a resolution.
I think there's a comment about that in her letter.
Neil, first of all, the health department, like Steve, it is a matter of disagreement between these two parties. The health department has done, Laura Vasile. Laura Vasile does unbelievable amount of research in order to come to a decision. It is our Bethel Health Department that has this requirement consistently. And unfortunately, the only pushback we get is because Steve has done his own research and he has his own opinion. I don't want to drag this out or drag this application out. We have spent umpteen million hours on this. I am telling you, please revise the drawings to show whatever the health department has requested.
We'll take that under advisement. Let's see.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. So.
Okay.
I believe, can we have a consensus from the commission that we should close this public hearing tonight? Well, we don't have any further reports to have to come in. Everything has been done. So do we have a consensus that this hearing can be closed this evening?
Yeah.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Richie, Commissioner Tibbetts is on the call. I think we should give him an opportunity to talk.
I did.
Rich, did you comment?
Yeah, it was far before the
I did
dumpster
ask.
ad debacle.
Thank you, John, but I did.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it, buddy.
I did not slight Richard, I swear.
Not
Could
this.
have been that important. I didn't remember it.
John, you're getting old. Okay, so I declare this hearing is closed for tonight. Close period. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to a regular business meeting. And I have to I think I'm going to seat Rob Wallace for Pat Rist. And could I have a motion for the meeting minutes of 10/12/21, please?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Who was that?
Quicker, Penny.
Yeah, Penny, of course. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, we go to new business. We have Louisa Yapangui, Unit 6 and 7, recreational soccer, 7 Francis Clark Circle.
Yes, a special permit, anytime you're doing any type of recreational use within the industrial park, a special permit is required. So this is Ed Baptiste's building over at 7 Clark Park. They're doing indoor soccer leagues. You can look at the drive and see there's plans and so on and so forth. And staff's recommendation is to do the public hearing on the 9th of November. It should be very quick.
11/9/21. Okay, could I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion that we schedule a public hearing for, Kitty, you could pronounce it, recreational soccer at 7 Francis Clark Circle, and schedule it for December 30th, 2021, and send it out to all appropriate town agencies for review.
Second.
Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Oh, I think I got you on that, Bob.
Okay. All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Are those opposed? Abstention? Hearing none, the motion passes. Okay, now we have an application for David and Valerie Gauthier, 830G Affordable Housing, 13 units, Cindy Lane.
Yes, okay, so here we go. We're running into a situation where the elections are held on November 9th. I think at this point, dealing with any new
What is held on November
applications.
9th?
Excuse me?
What is
Well,
held on
wherever the
November 9th?
election is. You have an election, you have a local election. I don't know exactly where.
Second.
It's November 2nd.
Okay, so it's the 2nd.
Okay, sorry.
I think it's because there's going to be a turnover in board members. I think it's important for the new board to start with new applications going forward from this point on. So in regards to the 6 Cindy Lane application for the 830G, I would recommend that we open the public hearing on the 14th of December.
Okay.
And Neil, please go to the Coffee Pot Cafe.
Yeah.
And have a cup of coffee for me. You're very lucky that I'm even speaking to you at this point.
All over a garbage dumpster.
Could we have a motion, please?
I move that we move the David and Valerie Gauthier application for 830G Affordable Housing at 6 Cindy Lane, that the public hearing be begun on December 14th, 2021.
Do I have a second? Bob, thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Okay, now we have one more. Eugene and Cheryl Pacific, 830G Affordable Housing, 2 units, 112 Old Hollyville Road.
In regards to that application, also, I would suggest that we hold the public hearing on December 14th, 2021.
Okay, could I have a motion, please?
I move that we start the public hearing for Eugene and Cheryl Pacific, 830 G Affordable Housing at 112 Old Hollyville Road on December 14th, 2021.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Opposed?
He's all over the place, you know, as far as.
Abstention?
He likes
Motion passes.
He likes the good.
We
life.
go to our work session.
With a lot of this-
Good night, all. Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Neil.
Good night,
Good
Neil.
Good night, Neil. Love to Lisi.
Have fun.
Enjoy.
Enjoy, Neil. Okay, work session.
In the work session, Kitty, I'd like to make a recommendation that we add 77 South Street. At the last meeting, you requested me to draw up a revised resolution of approval, or an amended, I'm sorry, an amended.
Okay. Could somebody make a motion, please?
Make a motion that we add 77 South Street to the work session.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain, motion passes. Okay, so we have added 77 South Street. So, do you have the motion? You can show it to us?
David, can you pull it up?
What's that I'm pulling up? I'm sorry.
77 South Street, it's in the drive.
Got it.
What I did with the resolution, I highlighted the areas that there were changes from the from the previous approval.
Okay, I don't.
If you notice on numbered 5, it's any changes to the facades of the structures will require review by town's consulting architect and planning and zoning commission prior to. Outside of that, nothing has really changed except for the site plan showing the existing house that was going to be torn down. The house is now staying, and the various amenities associated with the house and the parking lot.
Okay. Okay, would someone like to make a motion, please?
I move
Nope.
that motion to, I move that we approve a revised site plan for 77 and 81 South Street entitled 77 South Street LLC, 77 and 81 South Street Proposed Site Development Plan. Do we need anything else in there?
Just from number 1 to number.
Okay. Dated 10/15/19, last revised 10/6/21, prepared by DeVesta Civil Engineering Associates, Inc., and architectural drawings entitled South Street Studios, 77 South Street, dated 10/31/19, last revised June 6/23/2020, showing 16 units with the following stipulations, 1 through 6. The reasons: the converted use of the building and the proposed preservation and architecture is in substantial compliance with the TOD master plan and TOD regulations of the town of Bethel. This approval becomes effective when it is filed in the Bethel Land Records of the town clerk's office 15 days after publication in the local newspaper.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Kim, thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Yeah, next, anything else for your under work session? I don't believe so. Planners report?
Before we get into the planner's report, I don't know if, the commission, if you wish to, you can add items to the agenda if under work session, if there's something you care to discuss. Okay.
Let me go through my things here. I can't find my paper. Okay.
Well, you closed 2 public hearings tonight. You closed
Yes.
Stony Hill, and you
Stony
also
Hill.
closed 64 Worcester Street. But if you want to discuss any
Yeah, so I'd like
portions
to
of
make a
that,
motion that we add to the work session 48 Stony Hill Road. Possibly not, well, maybe coming up with a consensus, but I think that we should talk about it.
discussion.
Discussion, that's my motion, Kitty, thank you.
Okay, could we be?
Second.
All right, so we'll
That's
do
my
that one at a
motion,
time?
Bob.
One at a time,
Second.
okay. So, John has made a motion. Anyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Okay.
Anyone opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes. So, okay, and John, you want to start?
I think my comments were before were what I really feel. I feel like it was a good process. I feel like Route 6 needs a little help out there, a little more tools in the toolbox to make successful. And I would be in favor of the applicant's text amendment, approving it, excuse me, with best revisions, sorry.
Yes. Okay. Bob Legnard, would you care to comment?
I agree with that. I think we've worked this through to a process where it's going to be beneficial to the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Rob Stoll? You're muted, Rob.
I don't believe I was seated, so I'm.
Oh.
Well, we'd love to hear your input. You're a commissioner. That would be
Oh,
great.
yeah, this is a work session, Rob.
Wait.
Well,
Time out.
Okay, my
Time
opinion-
out, wait,
Wait a minute, wait a
excuse
minute.
me. Okay,
Seated for Pat.
is someone seated for Pat?
Yes.
Bob Wallace.
Yes, Rob Wallace is.
Rob Wallace.
Okay, then you are correct. Rob Stoll cannot
Thank you.
participate in the
Okay.
discussion at this point. I'm sorry, Rob.
Okay, no, thank you. Rob Wallace then. We'll go to Rob Wallace.
Back to just the whole issue of Route 6 development. And first of all, this has been a really interesting process for me as a new commission member. The whole notion of an overlay district and consideration of it, it's been an interesting experience. That said, I don't see any reason to oppose it necessarily. In context of the application for this particular property. The process is interesting as far as how we apply the zone, the overlay. I think it'll be interesting to see that play out. I trust the judgment of commission members that have more experience with those, and that's the extent of my input on this one.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, Penny Kessler?
I also trust the judgment of the commissioners that have been here before me. I also have a gut suspicion based on previous decisions that we have made in good faith, in very good faith, following, appropriate guidelines. I am concerned about the law of unintended consequences here. So that's it for me.
Okay, Ken Parsons?
I like the revised text amendments that were added, and I'm glad we did that.
Okay, I agree with the majority of everyone. I think that we've made a lot of revisions, and I think they've listened to what we've said, and I'll be very interested in looking at the application when it arrives. Okay, so.
Now you forgot me.
Having said that, what?
Now you forgot me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I knew
Yes,
it.
I did.
John, you see what happened there?
Wait a minute, John, may I ask a question, Rich? Did you listen to all of the YouTubes?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't put down that you said that. Bob, I didn't ask you. Bob Legnard told me, but you didn't. That's why I didn't ask you. Okay, so Mr.
I
Kibble,
am an avid reader and listener. I
thank
read
you
everything.
very much. I appreciate that. Must have been fun.
No. Listen, I don't have anything very exciting to say. I'm in the same boat, because this has been I think this predates me, the original application. And, so it's interesting to see the process play its way out. And look, like I've said this before, in my world, we look out on the horizon, right? So, I think very long-term from a career perspective. And so I do have, healthy pessimism is a good thing, right? So when I hear, I don't know if we're in the trust tree, but when I hear lawyers speak, about, and my point, I think my point was valid. There are several open properties on Route 6, all of which would probably fall into this overlay. So I am curious to see how it plays out long term. But I'm also, we have to root ourselves in reality that, the world has changed fundamentally, right? So, big box retail is primarily a thing of the past. I just wonder if there's, opportunistic behavior versus creativity, right? Are there other uses that we're not thinking about, right? Whether it's experiential or it's, I don't know, right? I'm not a developer, but I do sometimes wonder if there's other means for filling quote unquote retail space aside from traditional retail, right? That's the one thing, because I think it is short-sighted to say, hey man, retail's screwed, let's just build housing. That's kind of that's like A/B testing at its finest. So I'm just talking, but I truly trust the judgment of folks that have been at this a lot longer than I have, and you guys have seen this play out over a number of years. My experience is limited to a pretty short scope. So, I don't, again, like Rob Wallace said, there's no logical reason to say we shouldn't move forward with this, but I'm curious, right?
I think, just adding on to that a little bit, I think it'll be interesting to see what the increased residential density does to the demand for commercial property out there. It's the chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
And, does that force a change in what businesses look like, 10, 20 years from now, experiential or whatever. So it will be interesting.
I do believe that you will see changes in the commercial aspect out there. Again, it's taking some of the philosophy of the TOD zone and applying it out there to a degree. Route 6 has always been a very, very difficult area. You as a zoning board, and I hate to say going back 30 years, have always struggled with what to do out there. Whether it be, with Target, you didn't want big box, not you personally, but we didn't want big boxes. We didn't want McDonald's. We didn't want to be like Route 6 down in Danbury. And then we changed and we said, well, it's not too bad to do that type of thing. But did the change come too late? That's the question. Well, we came in time to do a big Y complex and a shopping center along that area. And then the world started to change. And yes, some people, because when you're dealing with old property owners, you see it, what's going on in the downtown area the same way. You have an idea of what your property is valued at. And you look at that and you cannot put it in respect to the way the economy is going. And so it takes time. And I'm sure that was part of why the property sat there for a while. It's very difficult when you work in the office, and I could sit here and tell you the number of times that we had various developers come in with ideas and concepts for a commercial component. But the problem was getting those people that you would want to see there, like a Whole Foods, like a living mall, an outdoor mall area, things of that nature. It wouldn't work because there wasn't enough property to begin with. So I think that, yes, there is a risk involved with this, but the only other thing I wanted to tell you was in dealing with the density associated with this concept of 5 acres or more, remember now you're putting in a component that 25% has to be open space. And we will discuss that further as we hopefully will work on in the future with the new commission. I have ideas for creating a green belt and making some connections out there that need to be made. And again, with the 25%, I don't want to keep you guys up all night, but dealing with the 25%, when you have that 10% component of fee, that fee is what we would use in order to develop the belt that we want to create.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. So
I have one more comment.
Hi, Bob.
When we did the Route 6 study, part of the Route 6 study is we determined that at some point in time, possibly expanding Route 6 into 4 lanes.
Oh, yes.
Everything that we've done since the Route 6 study, we took the center line of Route 6
Right.
and
Yeah.
figured, you know, the easiest way for expansion was to make some of those decisions in advance. And one of the drivers for, you know, the Route 6 study was, you know, 84, yes, but also the sewerage out there. Once they put the sewers in, all that property became more valuable for whatever purpose.
Right.
And we wanted to make sure with the Route 6 study that it was developed properly. And nothing's cast in stone with the Route 6 study as far as that goes, but it's a living organism, the Route 6. But it's a positive organism, I believe.
Absolutely right.
Thank you.
So, would somebody like to make a motion?
I don't think we should make a motion, but I don't think we should make a motion. but
Consensus? A consensus, right? Go ahead, John.
I think we should do a consensus. You could do it either by roll call or just by hands, you know, sending Beth away with drafting a resolution to approve it.
Well, I think there's enough visibility here. We could do, that, you know what? Yeah, some of us are not on camera, so I think I'll do a roll call, okay? Okay, Ken Parsons?
Yes.
You be in favor? Penny
Yes.
Kessler?
Yes.
Richard Tibbetts?
Sure.
Linda Curtis?
Yes.
Rob Wallace?
Yes.
John Lennon?
Absolutely, yes.
Bob Legnard?
Yes.
And Kitty Grant says yes. Okay, so Beth, if you would do that, we'll be ready for this at the next meeting.
Okay.
Now I think we should be adding David, I'm gonna do this again, Payenberg.
To the next meeting?
No, I'm sorry. No,
When do you want to
our
end?
agenda right now.
Oh, you want to end it now for discussion?
Oh, yeah, I'd
Okay.
like to open it for discussion. David.
Okay.
Which, sorry, which address is this?
64 Worcester Street.
Got it.
Okay, so, okay, people, would you like to start? Who would like to start? Ken Parsons?
Start what?
I'll start.
Discussion on the application. for
Getting
64
late.
Worcester Street.
Not taking any chances.
Kitty, I'll start. If you want.
Wake up, Kenny.
Kitty's awake. Kitty's very awake. I asked for a discussion for Mr. I keep stumbling because of his name. Payenberg, 64 Worcester Street, 830G affordable
it's
housing. So we should have a comment.
Pinenberg. Pretend the J is
Pinenberg?
not there. Pinenberg.
The pine tree.
Payenberg, thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm happy to start. I have this is an interesting one, right? Because my gut reaction to this is like, gee, I wish there was something we could say no to. But they've gone about, well, no, I mean, truthfully, I mean, they've gone and they've spoken to the neighbors, and the neighbors, I mean, this is the first time in my several years here where the neighbors have shown up and said, hey, it was really nice of them to come by and ask. And all I'm curious about is like, you know, a tree or whatever, and privacy, which is an important thing, but you know, it really kind of shows what that will get you with these sorts of applications, because it levels the playing field so that when we're sitting here with our hands tied, which we generally are, it's a little more palatable for the public. So I do appreciate the fact that took place. I'm having trouble only because I haven't done a site walk and I don't know that property. I can't believe that there's that much of a grade in the back, because it almost seems like the buildings are going to be hardly visible from the road behind, right? Which is a good thing. But I was surprised to see that, to be honest with you. The question I have, that is like, and I'm surprised it didn't come up, maybe it came up in the previous meeting, and I missed it, but like that turn is nasty. My friend lives on the opposite side of the turn, and when I pull in and out of his driveway, I'm like, who knows, man? I'm just hoping my rear view camera is working well.
Well,
Or that somebody sees my big pickup truck and stops. It's like, but that's the one concern. And I know it's not a huge number of units, but that is the one thing that I'm like,
hold on.
people complain about that turn.
Well, we
when
are,
there's not building going on.
It
you
did
are
say
waiting
don't
for
have final approval from the police department yet.
right. So the police department, there's two things that, with the police department, I think it's minor, police commissioner was gonna ask for a traffic study or something like that.
Joe
Yeah.
Balkus is gonna give us a traffic study.
And that's the reason to leave the hearing open, but it isn't. There's two things, they can verify that they have sightlines there for traffic coming in and out. And the second thing is, I don't care, as far as the stop bar and the stop line, it's gonna be like any other development. We're gonna have the police go out there and say, yes, that's a good place, or let's move it, or whatever.
It does have it. To be fair, it is on the better side of that turn. It's actually, the visibility is far worse on the opposite side. So because you have a clear line of sight across that corner when you turn out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm complaining because that's what I do. But I think for an 830G proposal, this was like, and we talk about this all the time. Like this is a good way to go through it, right?
Right.
It still may not, it still is imperfect, but getting buy-in from the neighbors, talking to them, coming up with a proposal that's fairly reasonable in nature.
Cram it down a neighbor's throat.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
That's right. Or with, I mean, this is I'd be careful.
Yeah, you're right, because he did say when the neighbor was talking about the garage, that his home was on the other side. He did say that they would go and they would work something out.
And they've put a lot of work. I know that, I don't know them, but I've seen that how they put a lot of work into that house. I can't remember the name of the couple, but the pool and the fence and the whole nine. So yeah, you want a little privacy. I get it. I live in a tight, on Oxford Street, it's a tight knit neighborhood, right? So you have to put up trees, and I mean, I have 25-foot arborvitaes lining my property, keep the neighbors away, but that's what you have to do. And that seems to be what they're doing. So hopefully that comes through. That's my one worry is, I think we all have seen enough landscape plans that don't come to fruition.
But it's in a plan, so therefore they'd have to live up to it. So.
Yeah, but I mean, an arborvitae and a green giant are two different things, right? You know what I mean? So is it a 3-foot arborvitae or is it a 20-foot arborvitae?
Right. Okay, all right.
Anyways.
So Ken Parsons?
Yeah, I agree with everything Mr. Tibbet said. It was nice that they went out there and talked to them, and privacy is a big deal.
Penny Kessler?
Ditto.
Thank you, Penny. Okay, Rob Wallace?
No, I agree with everyone that to the point of the sidewalk that was discussed. Is that on private property or is that town property?
I believe that was 10.
And I'm talking about it, so it would be to the north side, I believe, of the property. So if you were walking out of the property and making the left towards the train station.
The town is getting ready to finish that loop, so it goes all the way to Durant Avenue there. And this is part of it. And anything that you guys decide to do or want to review, that would be part of any kind of decision.
Are they, hey Beth, Rob, on that note, sorry, are they, because I know they're kind of like coming at it from two different sides. Would that, because that corner, I know that sidewalk does, that's one of my run loop, and that sidewalk just drops dead right at the corner.
I know. The sidewalk
so is that the one they want to extend, or on that
what they're
side?
gonna do is it's gonna go from Juniper Road down to Durant Avenue and cross over at Durant. Then it's going to cross over, I think, over at Juniper and come along the other side and hook up with the Nina Hill sidewalk.
Got it.
Oh,
I believe.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Listen, if Newtown can get away with running a sidewalk 4 miles down Main Street, I think we should be able to pull that.
I know. I agree. I agree.
John Lennon?
I have no comments. Thank you.
Bob Legnard?
No, I think this has been a good process. I think the end result is good. Like Rick says, it's nice when people get together and make the decision together.
Awesome.
the developer and the adjoining property owners, and makes our job a little bit easier. to
Don't
have-
forget the town.
I didn't get to you yet.
Uh,
And this shows that the process works, by getting everybody involved in it, including the town. Thank you.
May I say something? Beth spent a lot of time working with this applicant. And there was a lot of, don't look away. Oh, you're.
I'm looking at my big screen.
Okay, but there was a lot of back and forth with this applicant. And there were several nail biting times, I think, that it didn't look like, who knows? And I think she did a great job in, bringing it along to a point where it could come to you and look like this.
David was very good to work with. I will say that.
David
And
McCullough?
I concur.
No,
with that.
David Peinenberg.
Yeah.
Give me a
So-
break.
So.
No, it worked out well. That's it. I don't need kudos. It worked out well. We straightened out a lot of
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
issues, and I think it worked out well. With the
Well, it's good.
exception,
Well, I think it's very obvious because how smoothly it went and how beautifully
Okay.
it went and how everybody was working with
but we
it.
have one caveat before are you finished with the commission?
Yes.
I was
Okay.
just gonna say, Beth, it's good to keep, because we struggle with these applications so frequently that it's good to keep a running list of whether they're attributed or not, to say, look, we had an application, take the address away and the guy that ran it, but it's good to be able to reference look, these are things that worked well, right?
Right.
And this is what
And
makes it
that's
go
what I've
smoothly.
done.
So in the event you want this to go smoothly, this is what we would suggest. It's our humble opinion. You want to make it hard on yourself, go for it. But
Yeah, no, you're right. There you go.
And that's how it's done, Rich.
Rich, to your point, Rich, Beth asked every application to come in and do a pre-application to get a good flavor, and some do and some don't. And here's
Yep.
one that did, right?
Yep. And
And
it's
that's
amazing
pretty
how,
obvious.
yeah, I mean, there's nothing to say.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Okay, Beth, do you have something to add?
I'm
Good
done.
night.
Okay. I hate to do this, but Nancy, you can speak to this if you wish to, but this whole thing with the dumpster pad and the health department, when it comes times for department approvals, if anyone has done any type of development here in town, you know what the process is. You know what the process is if you don't do what the health department asks. It's delays, it costs money, and it is the health department's wish that this happens. So my recommendation to you is if you can help me in working with engineers and the health department and other departments that have strong convictions, that you please do it. And my suggestion is going to be, is if you are leaning towards, which it seems that you are, to asking us to drop some kind of resolution of approval, that you request that the plans be revised to show the 10 by 12, 10 by 8 dumpster pad as requested in the health department's memo prior to the initiation of construction.
But that's why I said it clearly states in her letter what she wants.
Right.
And I recall back a while ago, it was up in the air as to who wanted to take responsibility for the actual planning of dumpsters.
And I'm not doing it.
And we didn't want to do it.
No.
We said we didn't have the expertise. She has the expertise to say, this is the size dumpster you need for this. This is what you
Correct.
need for public health.
All right.
Whether it's in state statute or it's not in state statute.
But
She-
she
it's
is
based
the
on
Bethel
her-
Health Director.
It
She's
is
the
based
umpire.
on her expertise and experience of 35 years or however long she's been. I don't believe it's too much to ask for. I don't like to see applications be put off because it's
Wait.
not done.
Decision.
I think it's a very simple tool. But I can tell you, if it's not done department-wise, it is a nightmare.
Just to jump in on this,
Mhm.
it can also be a nightmare for the next owners of the building.
Yes.
No, because they're not gonna get a CO.
Excuse me. Penny
Yeah.
is very familiar with this. I apologize. I forgot about you.
You know, I mean, it can really wreak havoc on future sales.
Yeah.
Because there may be a difference between state and what our local health department wants, but ultimately it's our health department. And I've seen this happen.
Mhm. Okay, so,
I mean, we time and again refer things to the health department to get their opinion on things.
Right.
And I think we have to go along with their opinion.
oh,
Absolutely.
and Bethel is what Bethel is. Okay, so I believe we're going to ask you if we have a consensus for this application, for Beth to write up this
I'll
report,
put something together for you to look at and discuss further for the next meeting.
well, including the dumpster in this
Yes, I'll
application.
put something together and you guys can look at it and discuss it at the next
Okay,
meeting.
so do we have a consensus here, folks?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
very good. Okay, so Beth, if you would do that, we'd appreciate it.
Certainly.
Do we do? We don't need a motion.
Okay, the only other thing I have for you this evening is, as far as our planning and zoning meetings, I would like to start doing in-person meetings, move it up a little bit and do it at the end of November.
Yay! I agree.
So you all get to see each other at least one more time. And then starting with the new commission, we'll be starting in-person meetings, the first meeting in December.
Right, depending where, either way.
Sounds good to me.
Our room or in the,
Excellent.
Although I'm currently quarantined because of one of my kids.
John, like,
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
sounds good. Okay, all right, so what do we have next? Commission comments. Any commissioners have any comments here? No comments? Okay, how about public input? BJ, do we have any public input tonight?
No, I've already put my in.
Yes, you have. Okay,
Thank you, BJ, for that too.
okay, so guys, have a happy Halloween. And could I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Do I
second,
have a second?
second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Get out your trick or treat candy, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.